Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show for Friday. It is August the 14th. I don't know why I always do this finger thing where I go like, yow, like, here we go. It's just I don't know. It just seems like let's send it right now. It's a Friday morning. It's a few minutes after 8:30 here, Central Time. And we're going to do a couple things that we don't always do. I had my friend George Hill reach out to me yesterday. We talk pretty frequently, but sometimes he's got an ask, and yesterday was one of those moments. He said he'd like to do a public service announcement. So we're going to do a public service announcement. We don't do a ton of those things, but there is a memorial being built for the GWAT veterans, and it's pretty early on in the process. We're going to talk about it. We're going to show you the proposal of what the government wants to put up, and George is going to give you his take on it. I think he's got a sane and sober recommendation and an opportunity for you guys to do something. So if you want to take action, whether your government cares about it or not, we'll find out. It's early enough in the process that we'll maybe get there. And then we're going to go through the news of the day and the headlines that are out there with our friend Steve Friend for the Normal Friendly Friday. A couple things that we're going to be talking about. Baby surrogacy, this wild case that's out of California, Texas, and Alaska. Pretty disgusting, pretty gross. We're going to talk about some flock camera stuff. We're going to talk about how J.D. Vance is attempting to message in favor of the things that we've been talking about here at this program. I don't know that he listens here, but I think he understands that there's this sentiment that if you're not focusing on the domestic agenda, then you're failing. And they're failing pretty aggressively. We've got Epstein files that are still in process. We've got an ongoing situation in Iran. Oil prices are no better off today than they were yesterday, and those were not great. So unless you focus on the domestic agenda, I think you're going to be screwed. And so that's what we're going to do. Let's get super domestic, highly domestic, maybe. And we're going to talk about something that we all have to do, which is shower up, bathe, take care of our hair. Man, if you're not really into that sort of thing, I'm not into it either. I really want the simplest solution. It turns out that 2-in-1 is kind of a pretty simple way to do it. I want all natural fragrances. I don't want a bunch of junk. I'm not a perfumes guy. If anybody's ever met me, I'm actually quite offended by your colognes and your perfumes. I don't know why you guys all spray those things on. So this is really simple. It's straightforward. Heavy Barrel Shampoo. The website is heavybarrelshampoo.com/Kyle if you want to get there. That will get you all of the possible discounts. Make sure you use Kyle at checkout. You'll save 10% per bottle. If you buy 3 bottles, you get free shipping. So if you're like me and you think that you're saving money by spending money, or Steve Friend's wife, or actually all of us, I think we have that mentality, grab 3, get free shipping. You'll get 10% off each one. And then you've got one for your gym bag, one for home, and I don't know, one for your kids, something like that. It's reinforced with pumpkin seed extract. It's supposed to stronger and thicken your hair. I don't know. My hair is already pretty thick, so maybe you guys will let me know if that's the case for you. What it does have is all the ingredients listed in the back. It's made in the USA, and it's not made by some woke corporation that hates you. These are people that are sharing the same values. For me, it's the peppermint thing. First thing in the morning, if you need a cup of coffee to wake up, maybe a little bit of peppermint extract in your shampoo. And I don't know if you guys take showers to wake up, but I do that frequently. This is one of the ways to do it. Or you get out of the gym and you look like crap. You look terrible, or you smell terrible. In fact, I think I was going to share this with you guys. This is not really part of the ad, but I shared a little bit of this the other day. This is what I'm doing in the gym. I'm spending like 20, 30 minutes just destroying myself. So we played this last night on the call-in program. I'm going to give you guys a quick taste. Let me make sure I actually have it queued up here, and then we'll get into today's program. Okay, this is the part 1 of the circuit. You can hear the breathing. If you're just listening, you're like, what are we missing? You're missing out on kettlebell swings, sit-ups, push-ups, knees to chest, lunges that are ugly. Anyway, if you're getting gross like I get in the gym and you're just destroying yourself wearing very, very short shorts, you might want to go and clean yourself up with some nice peppermint extract. Check out the folks over at heavybarrelshampoo.com/KYLE. There is obviously a link in the show description. Heavy Barrel, like heavy barreled machine gun. And it's actually got this little guy on it. It looks actually like it's a barrel shroud with that Made in America flag. So check them out. Appreciate their new sponsorship here and them giving us a try. And you guys can give them a try. Some of you have already done so. So let's do it. There I am in the background, still doing PT. Mad Russians incoming. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this program. We're going to get started right now. I like watching the chat say things like, "Oh, you're doing planks, dude. I do planks." I don't know why I'm saying dude, but I do planks for sure, 100%. Let's bring on Steve Friend, and we'll bring on George Hill at the same time. That seems like the thing to do. George, you get the walkout music from Steve Friend. All right, let's make sure we've got everything working. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning, sir. My question for George Hill is, does he need the shampoo?
Probably feels great on the scalp.
That's cold. I mean, it's just part of my evolutionary process.
You've evolved into no hair. It's just less necessities.
That way, yes.
So the thing, I use shampoos on my beard, and then it ends up being my face as well. Because why would, I don't know. I think you can still. Do you still shampoo the scalp? Or do you soap it? Yeah.
I've got hair on the sides and back, so yeah, it does get a little bit of shampoo.
We call that the friar tuck.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Am I wrong? Is that not what it's called?
Yeah, no, I mean, I used to shave it, and I decided to go for a softer look, and with a ball cap on at the gym, there's no shine going off, so it's so I'm operating clandestinely, I guess.
Let me bump your audio just up a notch. I think everybody can hear you just well. Okay, so before I go into your PSA specifically, George, I had a question that popped up in a couple of my comments. They wanted to know about the George Hill shooting business, training business, which I assume you've relocated to PA at this point. Can you talk about that if that's real?
I have, but unfortunately, I have not affiliated with a range here. I actually need an introduction and recommendation from a member for the range that I want, because I am not a big fan of the firing line training, punching holes in targets. So if you're not moving and shooting and changing magazines and going through misfires and, not cycling properly, if you're not going through all the kinds of things that a real gunfight would introduce into your day, then you're just practicing to get shot standing still on a firing line. So I haven't done that yet. So I'm certified from U.S. Concealed Carry Association. I know some people have issues with them. Like, people have issues with everything. Some
That's
people
right.
even hate lasagna and pizza. I can't help them. So if
What
you're
kind of
not
people are you
training for
meeting?
real, you're not training. You're just training to get shot.
Who you mean out there, George, that hates lasagna or pizza? What's wrong?
I've met
Probably
them.
Steve
They're
Friend.
evil. They're really bad people.
Do you have a website if people can keep track of what you're doing? Just out of curiosity.
I don't.
Cool.
It was relatively a boutique business, word of mouth, and it costs time, money, and effort to maintain a website. I operate off the USCCA website, and so I can be found there. My student reviews can be found there, and the courses that I'm qualified to teach can be found there as well.
All right. I'll make you a deal. When you get squared away in PA and you start doing the classes again, we'll do an announcement for those that are interested. That way people don't have to ping me with comments, because I've gotten them and they're like, set us up with George. And I was
I'll be frank. I mean, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it because I believe that everybody has a God-given right to self-defense. And the motto of my company is stay out of the morgue, stay out of hospital, stay out of the jail. And it's really hard to do all three of those things at the same time.
That's right. No, that's true. Especially if you live in a place where they hate guns. So some of you guys are finding out that the NFA still applies to you. Let's do your PSA right now. We've got some graphics to go along with it. So George, I'm gonna let you take away the show. Why don't you tell people who are listening what they're seeing on the screen or what they're missing, and then describe for those who are watching it what the heck they look at here.
Yeah, thank you very much for letting me do this. I know when I usually come on your show, Kyle, I'm dispensing black pills like a Pez dispenser or swimming in a sea of snark, but that is not going to be the case this morning. This only came to my attention just a few days ago via direct message on Twitter. I had no idea that this design was submitted in June to the National Park Service by a gentleman whose name escapes me right now, but I can assure you that he is definitely not a bacon cheeseburger
Nationalist.
American by any means. This is the design that was submitted in June. It is about halfway through a 19-step process before it gets built. It is for the global war on terror, which is very different from the other wars. Actually, I mean, really no two wars are the same, but the GWOT, and I'm just going to use that acronym going forward, the GWOT was very unusual in that it was fought primarily with reservists. We filled 50% of the billets in Iraq and Afghanistan, depending on your rate or your MOS. I know in the Navy intel community, we filled 85% of the billets in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we were the exact same size as the active duty component. So we were embedded with all the ground forces over there operating. And it crushed businesses, crushed families through multiple mobilizations. You had National Guards people going over multiple tours throughout a 20-year war, which Joe Biden ended horribly with that god-awful pullout of Afghanistan that cost, 19 people their lives. I apologize if I get that wrong.
I think it was 13.
13.
At Abbey Gate.
It's 13 too many.
That's right.
Leaving billions of dollars and leaving the Taliban, one of the best equipped armies in the region, to the point where they saw fit to mix it up with Pakistan, which is a real sovereign nation, by third world standards, but nonetheless. So this design is early on in its stages. Kyle has a link to an email address that will go directly to the people that are shepherding this process through up to the National Park Service for incorporation. I've done a little bit of research, and I found out that a good many lawmakers and veterans groups are adamantly opposed to this design, which is essentially a gouge in the earth in a semi-oval shape with vegetation, and makes no sense at all. It is not representative of the sacrifices that were made by people who, especially like if you're National Guard, you wanted to help your neighbors, assist in floods and fires and natural disasters. And now you're, on an 18-month tour in Iraq or something. So
this looks like it looks like a shady sand trap for a golf course somewhere with some postmodern design.
It's gross. And like I said, it wasn't designed by a bacon cheeseburger nationalist. So, like I said, it's still early on in the process, and I encourage everyone, and you can reach out to me on X at Senior Chief EXW, first name George Hill. Write a respectful letter. You don't have
let me put this up here real quick. So this is the address, the email address. If people are so inclined, I will make sure we include it in a comment today as well for all the different places. But it's Charlie Foxtrot Alpha Staff, CFA Staff at CFA.gov. What is CFA? Do you know?
It's the capital, I forget, Facilities and Architecture Staff.
Okay.
They're like the beginning stage before it actually ends up on the desk of some bureaucrat at the National Park Service.
So CFA staff at CFA.gov, Charlie Fox Alpha staff at charliefoxalpha.gov.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not going to be dishing, black pills or snark here. Write a nice, respectful letter. I have no creativity in my body at all. Zero. You don't have to come up with a recommendation of your own of what it looks like. But if you have some ideas, then float it. My biggest issue, because that's what affected me the most, was that reservists and National Guards people were not sufficiently captured in this. This was a very unique war in that they used reservists and National Guards people. And I personally had to fight. I had to go in front of a federal judge just for a disability rating on injuries that were occurred during multiple deployments, because they fought that war on the cheap, on the backs of reservists and National Guards members, and were able to hide the costs associated with long-term disabilities. The burn pits and the cancers have been a horrific issue that is only now, years afterwards, getting any kind of traction in the Veterans Administration, any kind of recognition. I wasn't exposed to burn pits because my first deployment was early on, but I did work in the black mold trailers of Guantanamo Bay for a year. So, write a letter, and you don't have to be a GWAT veteran to write a letter. You don't have to be a veteran of anything to write a letter. You just have to be an American who wants an accurate representation of the sacrifice made, not just by the men and women who went over, but their families who stayed home, terrorized, if a government vehicle pulled into the driveway. So this affected all of us. And this is an opportunity early on in the process to write in, make your thoughts known in a respectful, courteous manner. And usually, you know, if you work for me, I told you, if you come in here with, a complaint, you better have 2 suggestions on how to fix it. You don't necessarily have to make 1 or 2 suggestions on how to fix it if you're not a designer or an architect, but you can just make a suggestion that, you would like to see it more representative of what, and make your thoughts known. This is still early on in the process, or not even 50%, or approaching 50% of the way through the governmental process. And, reach out to me on X if you need help, crafting a letter. And if you can't write very well, then run it through one of the AI programs.
Yeah, they actually do a really good job on that.
And have them edit it for you.
Do you want to show your proposed possible solution here? This is
you can. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to put it up there, I didn't. Yeah.
This could look like a tongue-in-cheek thing, but this is something that a couple of GWAT vets have shared with me back and forth, and I think George is on board with it. For those of you that are not seeing it, you're just listening. There's a it looks like an Army soldier. He's deployed. He's got the pretty standard load out there. It looks like he's got what were those called? They were ACUs.
Yeah.
Is that the?
It's hard to tell because there's not a lot of color.
Yeah, it's not colored in it, but you can kind of see what it is. Fatigues. He's got a pack on. He's wearing body armor. He's wearing kind of a clunky helmet, and he's got the signature M4. And he's standing there with a battered flag. It looks like kind of looking over. That looks like a skyline of New York to me a little bit. It just says duty, honor, betrayal, which is what I think a lot of people felt like when they went over there, especially the way that we came out at the end of it. What is the subtext read? I have to lean in here. It says, in grateful memory for the men and women who served in the global war on terror, we fulfilled our oath. They broke theirs. That would be a pretty strong statement from a government about what they had done to the folks that served. But I think there's plenty of people that actually feel that way.
And they also betrayed the citizenry of the United States in that we were sold an idea that we have to go over there and fight them so we don't have to fight them here. And yet we're importing millions of people who have not evolved since the 7th century, who are coming here with a political ideology that's antithetical to Western civilization. And now we're putting in feet washing stations for them at airports and prayer chapels on government owned property. Try doing that. Try putting in a Catholic chapel somewhere at Dallas Fort Worth Airport. So
right.
We were sold a bill of goods, and they completely stabbed us in the back on this. Not just the veterans, but the entire citizenry of the United States.
So your options look something like, do you want a mess of sticks that are stacked up to look like a really nice sand trap in a golf course, or do you want something that's more representative like the rest of the war memorials? Anyway, if you guys are so inclined, and I think it's worth your time, there's your ability to write to it. It costs you nothing. It's an email address, cfastaff@cfa.gov. I know this is near and dear to a number of people's hearts, including those who are in the chat who served, or people who had family members that did, or they experienced something that was even if you were just watching it and seeing casualty numbers pop up and wondering what in the hell are we actually doing over there with our tax dollars, our blood, and our treasure, then this may be something for you.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Steve, thank you for allowing me to walk in on your, what do you call that music?
His walk-in music.
Oh, walk-up music.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't have a theme song. If
Yet.
I did, it would be something very dark. So
I'm going to work on that for you. I think I've got some dark stuff. We'll get one of those. George, thanks for jumping in. I don't have anything else for you unless you wanted to make a final statement.
No, I have to run to the doctors and take care of business there. And I'm off for an adventure for over a week and a half to include scuba diving. So have fun, guys. Enjoy your rest of your day.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye.
GWAT injury is still coming back to you. So there you go. There's George Hill. Nice to hear from him. Steve, what do you got going on this week? Has it been kind of a weird week as far as the storylines have been very diversified, like everything from people quitting, jumping ship to, I don't know, we're having like small victories in the National Firearms Act. You're not getting suppressors in Florida yet, but
I'm just focusing on trying to be as optimistic as I possibly can.
You're just on last week's theme of staying optimistic about the golden age.
I'm back to, hey, look, returning the space shuttle to Earth without ricocheting off the atmosphere requires a lot of calculations. They were just a little bit off. They landed squarely in the middle of 1979 during a Jimmy Carter malaise speech that said we have a crisis of confidence. So everybody should be mega, MAGA Doppler excited about $7 ground beef.
I think I thought I pulled this thing down. I thought I pulled a JD Vance clip. I may have to do this in a second. We may have to do it on the fly. JD Vance clip has popped through my timeline 10 times by a bunch of people that are all conservative, constitutional, blah, 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 Republicans. They all seem like they have money invested in this thing. They run events that are Turning Point or whatever sort of political agendas. And they're all playing JD Vance, essentially saying, you know, we've really got to focus in. He doesn't say it, but on the domestic agenda, we've got to worry about oil prices at home, and we can't tell people that we're awesome and be scared of socialists when socialists are just offering an alternative and we didn't give it. Yes, no?
The alternative that they're presenting is we just want the ring of power. Just put us in charge. As long as we're in charge of the government, everything that comes out of the government will be messaged as an objectively good thing. Whereas if you did an honest assessment and said, hey, when the government does anything, it makes people's lives worse. So we should probably course correct and do the exact opposite of that. So affordability, inflation, immigration, everything that the government has done has been an objective failure. So why don't we just stop doing stuff? Let's just end all of these programs and then see how that plays out for us. But instead, it's back to there's not really a conservative party that represents any Americans. It's just Democrats who endeavor to grow government and Republicans who aspire to just be in government.
Yeah, give me a couple more seconds. I'm going to pull this video because I want to actually play it. And I think folks will understand what we're talking about here.
Well, I also think that there's this other myth that I wanted to even throw to you because I'm a little bit more familiar with state level politics and nobody's really thrown this out. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of situation. The system is set up to always grow because the left, the communists, the Democrats, whatever you want to label them, that's what they do when they get into power. No matter what, right? The numbers game always plays in their favor. Now, let's paint the most rosy picture possible. Let's say by some miracle, some inconceivable eventuality, November comes around, you get the midterms. You got the presidency.
No bumper?
No bumper. Yeah.
No bumper. Yeah.
You win the House if you're the Republicans. You retain the House. And in the Senate, you not only keep control of the Senate, you get to 60. Veto proof majority, right?
Yep.
Now we can be cooking with gas, right? We're going to get everything we want. You will get exactly what you get in the state levels, which I've had a little bit of interactions with in these blood red states, like my own, like in Florida, where you have a very successful governor. He's a Republican. His coattails are very long. It's resulted in a whole bunch of Republicans getting elected to the state assembly. They have these massive majorities, right? Well, then what happens is that the aggressive executive in the form of the governor wants something done. And there's all of these milquetoast Republicans who have a veto-proof majority that says, no, we're not passing that, governor.
Right.
And they can push on it. So no matter what you get, we either don't have enough or we have too much. Either way, you can't get the America First agenda across the finish line.
Okay. Well, here is the Vice President of the United States.
Though.
Yeah, I'm being positive. Yeah, let's be positive about this. This is the Vice President of the United States who I don't think can extract himself from the legacy of Donald Trump. This is one of the images that I saw on Axios the other day. It's Donald Trump in quicksand, which we were led to believe would be a much bigger problem as we were growing up.
Yeah, that or anvils falling out of the sky.
Oh, anvils. See, I always think about banana peels being incredibly dangerous and being a major slip hazard. I have slipped on 0 banana peels in my life, Steve.
Where is the class action lawsuit against Acme?
The Acme anvil dropper company. The banana peels, no, but I have slipped on tile floors with water on them. And I used to make fun of the signs that said, careful, slip hazard. And then you walk on some really polished concrete one day that's wet and experience humility as your butt makes impact with said concrete. Anyway, okay, here's JD Vance. I think he's trying to extract himself from something that he cannot extract himself from because he and Donald Trump are now inextricably linked. I guess you could ask Mike Pence how this works out, but here is the extraction attempt. We just need to focus on actually doing what we said. Go figure.
And my warning to my fellow Republicans, Will, would be if we don't get this right, don't blame young people for being sympathetic to socialism. We've got to blame ourselves. And I think what is so unique and refreshing about Donald Trump's economic policies is that it's not the same old economic, ideas that you would have heard 30, 40 years ago. He's talking about rebuilding our industrial base, rebuilding the heartland, making our streets safer, making it possible for young people to afford to buy a home. This is how you stop socialism. You don't stop socialism by throwing slogans at people about the free market. As much as I love the free market, you stop socialism by making people's lives better. And that's what we're trying to do every single day.
Numbers that people hadn't seen in years. $1.85, $1.95. So it passed Tuesday. I was in Iowa at a stop, and we had $1.95, another one $1.85 a gallon.
When was the last time you saw $1.85 in Florida?
No, never. Not since I've lived here.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, significantly.
There's an actual shot of a gas station from earlier this morning. Diesel's $5.29, and the regular is at $4.29. So that sounds a little bit more in line with reality. I don't know what planet the man lives on when he said, and again, I don't know if he's just surrounded by people that just sycophantically tell him everything you're doing is amazing and he's just confused, or if he's deliberately making sure that he just doesn't say things that are true. But it's devastating for credibility, I suppose.
He's definitely got a boiled frog defense, right? His entire life, his entire adult life, he's been surrounded by people who call him the boss or Mr. Trump.
God, do you remember when Patel would do that with us?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to meet with the boss. And we're like, dude, it's not our boss. He's not even technically your boss. You don't work for him, I don't think. I don't think he actually worked for him. He worked for Trump Media because Patel had some money there and he got money in some other ways. But like even then, it was always one of those kind of cringeworthy things. What are they going to tell the boss? It's like, bro, not my boss. I've never felt like I used to call my boss as kind of a joke.
Yes.
Because he couldn't actually tell me to do stuff that was illegal, immoral, unethical. Like he could just assign me tasks that were within my job description.
The term boss was like a colloquial term within the FBI. You
Always
wouldn't say like
always the executives.
Yes.
They would always get called boss.
Excuse me, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Johnson. You'd be like, hey, boss.
Right.
It's a more familiar way that you can refer to somebody where you're noting how they outrank you, but it's not military. Even though the FBI tries to pretend that it's military, it kind of messes that up all the time.
All right, I'm going to go through a series of stories here in just a second. So we'll kind of like run through the news of the day, but this is kind of where I have it. It's baby twist, baby surrogacy, judge, flock cameras. U.S. intelligence officials are now pushing back on the story about Donald Trump on the plane. And then Donald Trump spending tons of money on planes, paying himself through his campaign, and the Secret Service was paying Trump Media. And then we've got a last thing is just we'll end with the oil prices. And again, it's frustrating because they laid out what the winning agenda was. This is, and I kind of feel sorry for JD Vance. He's making this statement, not being able to say, hey, we really blew it. But you're 18, 19 months into your first, your second term here. It's his first term as vice president. He cannot extract himself from the record. So he has to frame it in a way that he knows is illogical. I think he's too smart to say otherwise. But he's got to be like, oh, it's a really great economic plan. It's like, no, it was a great economic plan that was not executed. Because
he also messages it as messaging. This is what's so great about Donald Trump, messaging that we are going to make the affordability stuff better, that we're going to improve people's lives. It's never a direct tie to a certain policy. He's even arguing against the free market. He said, well, you can talk about the free market all you want. He was doing the George W. Bush. I have to suspend the free market to save the free market. We need to get more invasive. We need more government, which is diametrically opposed to what you and I have argued for, which is let's get government as little intervening in our lives as possible. We seem to have done better. America seemed to have been more great when the government was less involved. Let's go back to that.
We did a kind of a damning retrospective looking that the national debt was under $1 trillion when I was born.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
It's gone up 40x in my lifetime. So when anybody makes an argument generationally, it's like, well, why would you pin it on any particular generation? And I'm not pinning it on anyone in any generation, although there are obviously people. I had a picture of Mitch McConnell up the other day who looked like death and has for several years now. He looks like a zombie. He looks like a dead person from a movie.
When was the last time somebody had a 20-minute phone call with Mitch McConnell? We need to hear.
I talked to him earlier today. He was telling me that he thinks that the Donald Trump energy, solutions are amazing and that we're about to win again in Iran. So.
And does he also do planks?
He does not do planks anymore. He's lost his ability to plank. He can't plank at all. His abdominal and core features are weak. No, it's sad though, because in 45 years, we've picked up $40 trillion in debt. And again, it took us north of 200 years to get to the first trillion. And it doesn't say that it just tells you that our dollar is also worthless. Again, every time I think back about what things could cost or what they should cost, and then I realize what they do cost today, you'd be lucky to get a meal for $20 at most sit-down restaurants.
Yes. Yes.
And I used to take, and you'd get change from your date if you sit down from like an like from a Chili's or from an Applebee's or from a whatever you could afford, TGI Fridays. When I was in high school, and that wasn't that. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago.
No, I mean, you're a couple of years older than me, but I mean, look, when I had my first job as a police officer and I was courting Madam Friend at the time, if I took her to a really nice restaurant,
She doesn't like it when you call her Madam Friend.
she doesn't listen to the Kyle Seraphin
Yeah,
show.
yeah, you're right. Okay.
I know. If I took her to her favorite restaurant, which was one of the nicest places that we could go to, she would get drinks and appetizers and desserts. And I was a cop who made $16 an hour. And then you got to do that Sebastian Maniscalco bit where you look at the bill, but you sweat on the inside so that you look like you're kind of a boss.
Yeah.
And it would be like $80.
Yeah.
That's a completely reasonable night at Applebee's right now.
I remember being very frustrated that I spent $80 or $100 taking my wife to the nicest, like fancy French restaurant in Austin. And, we got married in 2013. So sometime in the early 2010s, 2011, 2012, 2013, something like that, like right around then. We went to some place that I would never go again. By the way, the food was like, it was mediocre. It was French and it was like a little bit too fruity for me. And it was outdoors. And I was like, we're sitting here. It's freaking outdoors. It was pretty, but whatever. Yeah. About $100. And you're like, man, that's a big deal. Dude, I spent $100 at breakfast with my children the other day at a nowhere place that made like reheated waffles. And you just
eggs and flour, and all of a sudden you're out a C note.
That's devastating. And it's hard to look at young people and tell them, and George Hill just made that same situation. It's like, we sent people over there so that we could have the fight there and not have the fight here. Meanwhile, we imported tens of millions of people to the point where, I don't know if people saw this the other day, but he made reference to it. There was a story running around. There's a foot washing station, a ceremonial foot washing station being installed in Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport for Muslim people to wash their footsies. You don't have a Baptist chapel. You don't have an Orthodox Christian chapel. You don't have a Catholic church in these places, but you're going to have a Muslim foot washing station. It's absurd, the amount of betrayals. They're on every level. They're cultural, they're economic, they're agenda driven. There's the people who said they were for small government historically, and now they've abandoned this completely, and they just say it's all good as long as it's our government. And that makes that's hard to come back from culturally, I think.
Well, in Dallas-Fort Worth, I mean, they're doing the feed the alligator and hope that it eats you last. And isn't that an admission that they believe that cast of characters is incredibly dangerous, and we just have to appease them as long as possible to push it off, so that maybe Hezekiah style, like, it won't come to term during my lifetime. It'll just snap back on my kids, which again is kind of in keeping with the way that our culture has functioned over the last half decade, when we, for the first time, looked around at an upper respiratory infection, and instead of the older generation saying, we're going to make the necessary sacrifices so that the younger people can have success and maybe have a better life than us, it was like, nope, you
We're shutting down the economy
because you're going to result in, my inconvenience.
It's sad. Interesting. The folks in Dallas are doing exactly what they're doing in Plano, which is a suburb of Dallas where Breonna Morell is at. And if you recall the story that she had, and anybody who follows her on social media will see, she was chased into her apartment by some third world retard. And she drew a gun on the guy and ran him off. And basically the PD was mad at her for drawing a gun and didn't want to go after the guy. I just, for whatever it's worth, Seraphin Show rules: if you draw your weapon and somebody sees it, it should be because they're about to receive rounds from it. I don't believe in the draw and make a threat. That tells people that you're not ready to shoot it. If somebody sees my concealed pistol, it's because it's about to end their life. And I wish we need to get Breonna on that one. I also don't want women to have to do that, by the way. So the next story is going to be about surrogacy, which I think is a cultural thing that it's emblematic of a million things that are going wrong in there. We'll talk maybe on that story in just a second here. Let me just remind people, if you're watching over on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, give us a like. Appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share it with a friend if you are so inclined. You can join us on Locals. We had our call-in show last night. It was kind of a weird one, to be fair. We had some interesting, we had everything that you could imagine on that show, from substance abuse or aggressive use to conspiracies to just cutting it up and reminiscing about old stuff. So anyway, if you want to join us on KyleSeraphin.com, that's how you do it over on the Locals. And you may hear an ad on the audio platforms, which we'll punch in right here. The audio platforms that we get the most on are Apple and iHeartRadio. We also are on Spotify, which is where we're growing probably as well anywhere else. KyleSeraphinShow.com to get to the Spotify show. You guys get some weird commercials. Let me know what they are. Sometimes whatever we talk about will actually bring up the commercials. There's some sort of AI piece there. So by all means. All right, you ready to do some stories here?
Let's full send.
Okay, here we go. So this is coming out of the New York Post. And the New York Post says there's a new twist in this case of surrogacy who refused to abort a baby despite biological parents' request. Everything about this makes me nauseous. The idea that there are biological parents who are not physically involved in having the baby. I think surrogacy is evil. That is my personal opinion. I don't care if you can't have a baby and you want to have somebody else carry it. I think it's wrong. I think it's awful because you've done something that is atrocious. You've made another woman experience all of the hormonal changes of having a baby, and then you're taking the baby. And I think it's awful for the baby, and I think it's awful for the biological or the carrying surrogate mother, even if she's not related. This whole thing is like a little tiny microcosm of how effed up our culture is right now. Have you read much on this?
I don't know if it's the one I've been reading about, but I read that there's this gay couple that was demanding an abortion.
This is similar but worse.
All right.
The biological parents of a baby born to a surrogate in Texas who refused to have an abortion that they asked for is now in custody of the infant, according to their lawyer. So this woman is McKenna West. She gave birth to a baby she named it Gabriel, and they immediately said they're going to change the name because that's not going to be good enough for them. The couple is from California. She's from Alaska, and it sounds like she fled to Texas to have the baby, to keep the baby alive, because the baby had a biological heart condition that was going to require surgeries. And the biological parents who were paying for it, who have no emotional investment in the baby other than the concept of a baby, they're paying someone else to do all the hormonal work and attachment to the growing fetus. They're like, yeah, just get rid of it. There's an anomaly in the pregnancy. We don't want it. So just end it. So here's where it says, the parents' top priority is spending as much time as possible with the baby who they wanted dead. And there will be stories forever for this poor baby to know about. The boy is now receiving medical care provided by a team of pediatric experts. They'll place their baby's health and well-being first, following the advice of the baby's medical team. There's a legal battle that began in April after the unborn child was diagnosed with a severe heart condition. It's called hypoplastic left heart syndrome at 20 weeks. And that's when they wanted to get rid of it. The surrogacy contract between West, who's a nurse from Alaska, and the LA area biological parents contained a clause that allowed for terminations if there were anomalies in the pregnancy or an anomaly in the pregnancy. But after the couple asked West to abort the fetus, she refused, and instead she traveled to Texas, where she would be recognized as the birth mother under state law. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because I have to go to the CBS story to get this piece, because it's right up front here. And this, Steve, let's see if you're on the same wavelength with me. The baby at the center of this dispute between a surrogate and the parents is now in the custody of the parents being the people that are biologically related but had no role in creating the baby, I guess.
And wanted the baby dead.
The baby, born Wednesday morning, that was day before yesterday, has hypoplastic left heart syndrome, a rare heart defect, requires a number of serious surgeries. Okay. When they learned of the diagnosis months ago, the parents, identified in court documents as Nasheen Gilkar and Omar Ahmed of California, requested that the surrogate, McKenna West of Alaska, get an abortion. For me, that paragraph might be the most crazy thing that you could read. That might be the microcosm piece of what is wrong with our country. The names and the situation are completely absurd. And if you read that paragraph, I think to someone 25 years ago, let's call it like just before 9/11, nobody would know what on earth that meant. That would be a foreign language to them, even in English.
And to even take it out of the context of the debate over artificial insemination, because that gets emotional for people. I understand it. All of the problems in this situation, she's in breach of contract, and now this baby, you can't unmake the baby. The baby can't not be born anymore. And now there's a question about what it would actually be murder if we actually did an abortion, a post-birth abortion. It's all downstream of the problem to begin with, which is this shouldn't be allowed. It's no different than the fraud that Vice President J.D. Vance and his White House task force for anti-fraud that doesn't invite the FBI to be involved in is addressing. They're uncovering billions and billions of dollars of fraud. if you want to get rid of the fraud, you don't have the programs. Oh, I just solved the entire problem. If you don't want to have people who are doing foot washing in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport saying you better kill that baby because it has a heart defect, then you probably shouldn't be doing the surrogacy. Done. Problem completely eliminated.
It's very upsetting to read every little piece of it because, like you said, the problem, that's the final symptom. This is the boil that looks like it's going to, burst, and God knows what's coming out of it. It could be spiders. It could be, all of your blood. It's something horrific, like from an R.L. Stein book. But when you go further upstream, you're like, who in the hell is a Nasheen Gilmar or Gilkar and an Omar Ahmed? And why do they not have the same last name? And why are they making a baby from California with a woman who lives in Alaska who literally runs to a safe state for the child, and then they're going to take over the child, and now they're going to rename it, and suddenly they're going to take ownership of this thing that they didn't want to be part of because it was an inconvenience because the child had a quote unquote anomaly, which was a death sentence.
Is satanic and evil and just horrible to think about, but hearing those names and hearing that they don't have the same last name lets me think like, hey, are they citizens? And now this baby is a birthright citizen of the United States of America who they want to keep on the books for as long as possible so they can get those sweet, sweet government pennies. That immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, or are they just people who have a bunch of money that picked out like a pretty lady? You can see here in the story, like she's a pretty young, fit. Why is this woman not having her own babies? Why is she selling access to a uterus? Yeah, she's a nurse, and theoretically that's a decent living, and maybe it's a skill set she just puts in her back pocket. Like my wife has a potentially lucrative career as a counselor. She's very good at what she did, and yet she hasn't worked outside of the house in 9 years because her priorities went to taking care of children. That was pretty standard. Right up until basically when I was born, it was actually pretty uncommon for women to 100% be expected to have, two incomes coming into the household. That changed in my lifetime. And so the end result of that change, in addition to $40 trillion in government debt, is like pretty young lady of child-rearing age who's interested apparently in going through and having a child. I think there was actually a picture. I can't remember if there's a picture of her. Yeah, there is. There's some pictures of her. There she is. Holding the baby, the belly, doing the baby belly pictures with apparently no genetic connection to the baby that she's hormonally becoming connected to.
Yeah, holding the baby belly means that there's an emotional connection, which is going to be broken theoretically, even under the most optimal circumstances, because this baby is going to be taken away from her and given to people who have had no connection with it. Even if the genetic material is completely tied to the people in California, there hasn't been that connection between mother and unborn child for the entire length of the pregnancy. So there's going to be emotional problems, even if it's just for her, even if the baby never remembers that it was birthed by a rented uterus.
Right. She'll always carry that. So, and women who have had miscarriages know this. And that's a really, I've got too many friends, and we've gone through this process. It's brutal. It's like my 5-year-old son sometimes asks, like, well, what happened to the baby? And it's like, dude, you're too small to understand what we're talking about here. But there's a sense of loss, even in a 5-year-old who was waiting for something, was excited about something. He told family members, and then it's like, then it didn't happen. And so then what do you do with that? This woman will always have that sense of loss. She can claim that it doesn't exist, but like, I don't know anybody that's ever had a miscarriage that doesn't think occasionally. Any woman that's like that. So what a sad state of affairs that we've normalized this thing. Mm-hmm. And it just shows us that we've made babies and children transactional, the same way that like going to a breeder to get a puppy. I mean, there is an instinct that I have that our society's problems, so at least one of the big ones, the major symptom outgrowth, is a failure to focus on the next generation. And I think JD Vance is actually kind of stumbling around that with that clip that has been flowing everywhere. He's like, you can't blame him for looking at socialism if we're not doing a good job. It's like, right. But why are you not doing the good job? Steve Friend, let's go upstream of this. What made you not do a good job? Mm-hmm. And the reason you didn't do a good job is because children and posterity was no longer a thing that, how many people say we want to ensure the blessings of fill in the blank on ourselves and posterity in their mindset? How many people look at that?
Posterity is just too many syllables for people. They don't understand what it actually means. Looking over the horizon to make sure that this whole thing that we've got here, not only as a country, but as a species, is a going concern. I mean, JD Vance He's similar age demographic as us, so he wasn't quite around, but near enough. 1971, a minimum wage job in this country, one person with a minimum wage job had a better standard of living than somebody earning $100,000 today. And I'm not saying that with like the accoutrements. They didn't have Netflix, they didn't have Wi-Fi, but I'm saying the foundational things that you need: 4 walls and a roof, food, healthcare, education.
I was doing the math on the 4 walls and a roof part. I was like, wait, is that the right order? Is it 4 roofs and a wall? What do we need here?
So those sorts of things that you would need to sustain yourself and your family. 1971, earning minimum wage means you could have done the Al Bundy and worked at a shoe store. And
take your kids on vacation, but they're in the back of your station wagon. So be it. Like there were opportunities to be able to travel, and it wasn't gut wrenching. There were people that took vacations, and it wasn't like vacation is a luxury and has been in my whole life.
So that's a half century. Well, what has gone on in the half century? Well, you've added $40 trillion of debt. So maybe that could be one of the contributing factors here.
It's been a while since we've been in the rental of a apartment, but consider how many apartment buildings have dog parks attached to them. It's almost all of them.
Yes.
It's the amenity that is assumed. You will get a dog park. That's why you might choose this apartment building. How many of them have a play set that is a swing and a slide and a little climbing thing for children?
Yeah.
Almost none.
Well, I mean, part of it is going to be because there's all these zoning and liability restrictions, because it's impossible for you to have a metal slide because you could burn the, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
meanwhile, you can have your pit bull hanging out in the dog park that could literally rip somebody's throat out.
Your canine version of an alligator and say, what? This isn't a problem. Okay, I get it. We've infantilized dogs because we treat them as humans now. I can't tell you the number of people that I see pushing the baby carriage that has a Frenchie bulldog in it.
Whenever I see that, I saw that when I was in Las Vegas with the Libertarian Convention. There was somebody who was pushing around, and I was like, oh, like I love babies. Like I will walk up to a baby. I will walk up to a woman pushing a baby and then talk to her and the baby, like just complete strangers. I love that. Actually, I got myself kind of in a weird spot the other day. You ever say something to a child and then the parent thinks you were talking to them? You ever had that moment? So this is it's like a complete aside, but I'm in the pool the other day with my kids, and I got my almost 3-year-old, and then the 5-year-old's doing his own thing swimming, and the 9-year-old and 7-year-old, they're doing their own thing. They're swimming around, doing whatever, bobbing and stuff like this. And there's this little guy, and he's 3 and change, I can tell. And he's really cute. He's a really cute little boy, and he's hanging out with his mom, and the mom is like a mom. She's like a regular mom. And all moms that have children my age are like 10 years younger than me. So there's that. And so this woman is like swimming around with her kid, and he's funny, and he wants to like hang out with me, and he wants to, like tell me stuff while my daughter is telling me stuff. So he's like trying to show me his Crocs. He had his like water shoes on, and he's like, these are Crocs. And I was like, yeah, those are short for crocodiles, right, man? Like that's what you use to wrestle with crocodiles. And he's like, they're just Crocs. And I was like, oh, and then my daughter's like, you could call them holies because they have holes in them. And he was like, they're called Crocs. He's like a totally literalist little boy, And I was like, maybe we should call them alleys because they're for fighting alligators. Those are freshwater. Crocodiles are in the salt water, right, buddy? And he's like, they're called Crocs. Like he's locked in on it. And then, he's got like a hat on, so I can't really see him. And anyway, he like dives at me and like, I catch him, leaves the mom. And I go, dude, you're pretty stinking cute. And the mom looks up like I was talking to her, and she looks like someone slapped her, because here I am, this dad with like 4 kids in the pool. And I was like, he's a stinking cute little kid. He's like my son. They can get away with a lot because you can jump to a complete stranger if you're a cute little kid. People would rather do that with dogs. Yeah. Like the average person that's 10 years younger than me would bristle at the idea of a young, cute little boy running up and wanting to hang out and talk to them. And they're occasionally very uncomfortable with it. Whereas if somebody's dog comes up and sniffs, they want to get down and talk. And, well, what's the dog's name? And they're going to have a conversation with it. We have a completely bizarre focus that has left children behind. And this surrogacy story tells me we're so far down the line of just we've lost the thread. And all the other sort of decisions that come along with it. Yeah, I heard a woman on Dave Ramsey, and I heard it this morning, and somebody described it as the most boomer phone call to Dave Ramsey ever. She's like, I'm a 7-year-old woman. I'm an everyday millionaire. I have like whatever, $2 million or $3 million in net worth. And, I'm in my 70s, and my children, one of them's a very high earner and the other one makes like $50,000 a year, but I don't want to leave any money to my kids because they're socialists and I don't like their values. And then Dave Ramsey's like, yeah, you don't have to leave him anything. Like, you could put a contract in there. We do it about God. She was like, yeah. He's like, you could do it about capitalism or something. And I went like, why are you trying to take it with you? Like, when you're dead, what do you care what happens with that? What a weird thing to be worried about.
This is the generational war that's been going on now, where for years we got the baby boomers were saying, oh, the millennials suck and they're lazy and they were part of everybody gets a trophy and they're rearing, and now they're just weak. And then now that the millennials have matriculated and they're old enough to have a job and a house, if they're lucky enough to be able to afford a $450,000 3-bedroom house in the suburbs,
Right.
Then they're pushing back and saying, well, hey, you guys set the economic conditions that made it this way. And not for nothing, you raised us. You were in charge of the everybody gets a trophy thing. Like, do you not bear a little bit of blame here? So there's equal criticism that can go one way or another. But if I was going to be critical of the baby boomers, it would be what you're sort of expressing there with the Dave Ramsey sort of perspective on things. Like, it's incredibly selfish. They're going to wind up riding this tidal wave all the way in and then look back and say, like, well, why didn't you guys just pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Well,
boob straps.
Yeah, boob straps. Well, she's only 28 years old.
Yeah, but she's a honorary boomer. I think when you marry into the boomers as a 28-year-old.
That's true. And just from a historical perspective, and this is, again, like maybe like a Friendly Friday aside, I think that baby boomers, and if you happen to be watching the Kyle Seraphin show, I got to give my throat-clearing land acknowledgement, and you're not a douche, this doesn't apply to you.
That's right.
But
it really
baby
doesn't.
boomers have benefited from most Americans having no sense of history whatsoever. Most Americans watch Saving Private Ryan and then presume that everybody who's a senior citizen was storming the beaches of Normandy, not the people who were rolling around in the mud, dropping acid at Woodstock, which is what the boomers are. They were the ones that didn't go and fight the war that they were supposed to fight, unlike the GWAT. They didn't go to Vietnam, the only war apparently that they were opposed to. That is what the baby boomer generation is. The Normandy guys, they're all not with us anymore. That was the greatest generation. So stop giving them this.
I kind of also
like
what Ron Coleman told me, which is that that generation did something strange where you had a generation of people that came out that was very fixated on their own happiness. They kind of ignored God, just said, hey, our job is to make sure that we're profitable, that we're doing really good business work and blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, there's an argument to be made that every generation is, every parental generation is responsible for the one after them. But if you do that, then you got to be fair and look upstream. I don't know what the answer is. I know that the problems that we're facing right now, which talking about socialism is very interesting. And the fact that that's the big fear mongering tactic, like this was already done. I was going back and forth with Dan Holloway from the Drinking Bros podcast the other day. And he's like, this battle was already fought in 1913. And I'm like, I know. And we lost. We lost. We got the Federal Reserve out of it. We got a national income tax. We got a destruction of the United States Senate. As you said, 60 senators who don't represent the state houses. They represent this kind of mixture of people. And the more democratized you make your country, we've already proven that this is the opposite. Like, this is what you got people talking about. Fascism, monarchy. Like, what's the answer? American dictatorship, an American Caesar. How do you have someone step in the middle of this crazy emergency to turn the ship? The Romans had a mechanism for that. We didn't build that into the American system because theoretically they thought they were actually electing that person to kind of seize power every 4 years and then walk away. And instead what you get is this institutional rot, this Nepo in-law situation. We're going to do this bit here because this is still being adjudicated right now. This story just dropped here that a Nevada judge, because this is where the real power lies in America, is in the judiciary. The referee is actually scoring goals one way or another on what they want. And this judge just dropped this Nevada case against a guy named Michael McDonald, who is I think he's the GOP chair in Nevada. And I thought this was the same Michael McDonald that was in the repeating video from 40-Year-Old Virgin. Do you remember that?
It's been too long since I've seen that movie. I only remember the waxing scene.
I feel like I have it. Hold on. I actually have here. It was this. It's not the same Michael McDonald as this guy.
I gotta tell you something. I'm really excited about it. For the first time today, I woke up, I came to the store, and I feel confident to say to you that if you don't take the Michael McDonald DVD that you've been playing for 2 years straight off, I'm going to kill everyone in the store and put a bullet in my brain.
David, what do you suggest we play?
I don't care. Anything. I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast. I would rather listen to Fran Drescher for 8 hours than have to listen to Michael McDonald. Nothing against him, but if I hear Yamo be there one more time, I'm going to Yamo burn this place to the ground.
Such a smart ass. Get back on the floor.
There's so many things that show you what's wrong. There's a young guy answering to the weird lesbian lady. It's just so disordered.
Now I know you're gay. You listen to Coldplay. Now it's all coming back.
That's right. Yeah, that was a good movie. Paul Rudd did a great job in that. And also, like, I've been that guy. I worked in a Circuit City where they would put the same DVD on repeat every single day. And at some point in time, you're ready to burn it to the ground. Anyway, that was the Michael McDonald. Not the same Michael McDonald as this guy, who looks like he's much higher calorie and younger and has some these grooming tactics that he's executing are, what would you describe that as? I ill-advised would be the nicest way I could say it. He's got the Donald Trump tie.
You got the
too.
Donald Trump tie. You got to give him that one.
Yeah.
And the lapel pin that is far too big. I don't know
what is going on there. It looks like he's got handcuffs on there. It's some kind of bondage thing with the God of the Sun or something.
I'm pretty sure I met this guy at the Cash
I'm
Patel
sure
movie
you did.
premiere.
I know you met this guy because you've been in Las Vegas a couple of times with these people.
Oh,
am I wrong? You've definitely met him.
I'm fairly certain that GOB and I, when we went out to the Cash Patel movie premiere, met this guy when we did the Q&A session afterwards, and Cash Patel expressed that guys like Garrett and I should be the ones answering the questions and fixing the FBI.
Yeah, this has been a really short, but like a very compressed timeline in the last 4 years, because I was looking at the thing and I was telling my wife, I was like, 4 years ago, right? We're in 2026.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I was still a homeowner who technically was an indefinitely suspended FBI agent. I had not gone on the Daniel Bongino show yet 4 years ago today.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, think about how wild that is. You and I don't think we're in contact yet.
No, not until September.
It was about a month ago. It's like it's like 6 weeks from today would be the 4-year anniversary of you and I talking for the first time.
Yes, it was right in that time zone, which again is the providential nature of you doing that interview the same week that my name gets dropped. I mean, like the same within 24 hours.
That's right.
Pretty wild.
So anyway, this is all still being adjudicated because this is going back 6 years ago. This is stuff that was the problem then 4 years ago when I was still, nobody knew who I was. Nobody listened to this podcast because it didn't exist. This judge is talking about an electors accused of forging certificates for the 2020 election because we still haven't solved the election issue.
No.
And that continues to run forward. It's one of the, I called it the 3 like fatal flaws in the 20 core promises to the Americans that Agenda 47 had. If you were to boil it down, like everybody has like, oh, here's my 20-point plan to save the thing. You're like, hey man, you got 90 seconds in the elevator. What is your elevator pitch? And the elevator pitch is, we're going to shut the border and deport all the people that are not supposed to be here. We're going to work on inflation by making America affordable, right? And so that means you're going to have to do some tight money and monetary policy. And then the last thing is you're going to secure the election so it actually means something.
If you achieved those things, you would get a lot of latitude on foreign entanglements in Iran.
You can start a new war, even though you promise not to start a new war, if people can drive to the gas station, not do half a tank and see that it cost them $50.
Yes.
That's what you can get away with.
Give you the grace and say, there's probably things that I don't know. This guy's dominated on these major issues. So I'm going to ascribe to him what we're told to ascribe to him, that he's the smartest guy in every single room. And it's not just people who are fluffing him because they've been in his orbit for too long.
Yeah. Anyway, let's read the story real quickly here. This is the same thing. There are similar cases that have been already dismissed, and they happened in Georgia and in Michigan. There's an ongoing case in Wisconsin, and this was happening in Nevada. They are still playing out the election drama. For anyone who's never been in a lawsuit like this, I've had people in our chat go like, hey, like things must have gone really well for your lawsuit with the defamation. It's like, we haven't even gotten started on that yet. I was sued about a year ago. In 2 weeks, it'll have been a year. 1 year ago, I was sued for $5 million. And we have a status conference the day before the 1 year anniversary of them dropping that lawsuit to discuss how the case is going to begin. And I'm representing myself because after $20,000, and I talked to one of the attorneys last night, they would have charged me $70,000 to write 2 motions, which failed. And they were kind of like, I don't know if they're pleased with themselves or bummed out, but they signed a flat rate with me for 20 grand. And we've done 0 things. There's been no discovery. There's been no progress. We have a judge assigned. I've made an initial pleading. They sued me and I've answered. And now we're going to find out what they're going to do with the case in 10 days. Yeah. That's how slow this system is. So 6 years later, these guys are still dealing with 2020, which means the costs are insane. And
that's the point.
dude, the stress of it is insane. I've been trying to figure it out like for the last, I don't know, 9 months. Every day I wake up, I feel like something, like I've been carrying 100-pound weights in each arm for a mile. I wake up and I'm like, I just woke up. Why do I feel like I've been toting ridiculous farmer carries and my shoulders feel like they're made of steel, but not in a good way, like kind of like a painful steel.
Yeah. There's an emotional drain. There's a financial drain. This is a tactic which is weaponized, even if it is from private attorneys, and they're doing it at the behest of the director of the FBI, which I would contend is probably weaponized government.
So this is local weaponized government, because you don't know the story on this, but let me just read in, and your point is so well made here. Years long, stop jumping on me. The years-long case against 6 Nevada Republicans who were accused of submitting a bogus certificate that falsely declared Donald Trump the winner of the state's 2020 presidential election has been dismissed. This is what the judge ruled on Thursday. By the way, they can still appeal it, and they're going to. The dismissal marks the latest setback in swing states' effort to prosecute the fake electors. This is the Associated Press, so they're fake electors. They're not alternate electors or whatever else.
Or faithless electors, which is a normal thing.
People have done that. There are 3 other fake elector cases. One of them is in Arizona and Michigan and Georgia. They've all been dismissed. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays recently dismissed her office's criminal complaint, but vowed to bring it back to a grand jury in hopes that they could secure another indictment so it could continue on. That's the Democrat Attorney General there. Is that right?
Yeah, I think, Katie Hobbs is the governor, so probably.
So the dismissal is a legal maneuver aimed at getting around a deadline, starting a new grand jury proceedings after they lost their appeal in June. So they're going to do this. Who's bringing this case in Nevada? Oh, the Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford, who coincidentally is running for governor as a Democrat in Nevada, also brought charges related to forgery and offering, quote, false instruments for filing a record against the 6 Nevada Republicans who's pleading not guilty. If you were going to describe weaponized government, using public or private means, this is a perfect example of it. This is what you are looking at. This is the thing that we are also, by the way, going to end under Trump under some ways. And
yes,
it's just not there.
This is somebody in a position of power that theoretically they took an oath to protect and defend their constituents against fraud and force, particularly if you're the attorney general, you're the chief law enforcement executive. Now, I understand that there's a political nature to it. I understand that all of these dudes promise to do things so that they can get elected. But in actuality, what's going on here is this is a politician who said, I want to put this person in a cage so that I can have a bullet point on my platform, and said that I put people in a cage for things that had no consequence whatsoever. That is looking at people as an opportunity rather than as the boss, the people who theoretically are supposed to be engaged in a social contract, social compact with you in the government, where you do a limited amount of finite things for them in return for them giving up a small amount of their liberty. That's not the social compact that we have anymore, because it's been completely shattered.
Well, and it's crazy too, because as you just said, there are things that happened, and then there are things that could have happened but didn't happen. And to prolong something that we know didn't happen 6 years later, because regardless of what these guys did, Joe Biden entered office.
Yes.
January of 2021, whether people liked it or not. There wasn't a secret military panel that was using this information to run the government behind the scenes like the Q-tards. This actually ended up having zero consequence. And bad behavior aside, after 6 years of this nonsense, all you're doing is you're tying up resources from the state to do something that personally or politically benefits your party. That's the opposite of what you'd expect. That's what weaponized government is. We have an outcome. We're looking for it. We don't care about the process. And this guy said he's going to appeal it.
And that's why you also see conspiracy charges all the time, because conspiracy doesn't require you to do the thing that actually causes the damage. I hate conspiracy,
by the way. I hate it.
Conspiracy is 2 things: an agreement between multiple people, and then one of those people does something in, quote, furtherance of that effort. So if Kyle and I are going to rob a bank, all right, it's he and I. We've had an agreement. We're going to rob a bank. And then Kyle goes to the 7-Eleven and gets a ski mask.
Yes.
Now we have a conspiracy to commit bank robbery, even if in the end we're like, we probably would wind up in prison. So like, let's just do another Friendly Friday and hope that the ad revenue comes in.
But wait a minute. What 7-Eleven sells ski masks? This seems like something that came from your previous life, because they don't sell those in Texas or Florida, as far as I know.
I don't know. Maybe something that's owned by people who use Alaskans' uteruses.
Fair enough. That checks. Okay. We're going to take a quick breather here, and we're going to get back into it with like a couple of different interesting stories. I think they're interesting. One of them is another thing that didn't happen, the conspiracy, except it's a little bit worse. It's kind of like a national origin bit. Remind you guys, Patriot Protect is one of the ways that you can protect yourself from weird stuff. patriot-protect.com/KYLE. You guys will save 15% on an annual subscription. There is a second link in today's show notes, which are you just expand out. Right now, you can find out that there are probably hundreds of different data brokers. They're all kind of evil. They all kind of do this awful thing where they publish your name and your family members' names and your address, phone number, as well as basically everything that's ever been leaked about you online. Sometimes it includes maiden names, old addresses. There could be tax records, email addresses, et cetera, et cetera. We call those selectors or identifiers in the law enforcement community. And it's just going to hang out there on the web unless you do something to take it down. Most of us want not that out there. I'm not afraid of people knowing where I live, per se. I grew up when they were phone books, but also weirdos live on the internet. Many of you guys know who they are. Some of you guys are those weirdos. Sometimes I'm that weirdo. Anyway, somebody who knows what they're doing, they can find out all kinds of things about you. They can use where you've previously lived. They can see when the deeds change hands. They can map your life out. They can do this research pretty easily. I've done it in as quick as 15 minutes and found all of the master toilets in all of the houses that people that I like or know have lived, just as a joke. And so it's easy enough to do. Guys, if you don't want something jumping in there and using your Facebook account and some stolen data to be able to log into your bank account and steal your stuff, Patriot Protect is one of the ways you can protect yourself against it. You want to get your stuff removed from these data broker websites. It makes you a smaller target. The co-founder of Patriot Protect calls it the attack surfaces. These are the ways that scammers and cyber criminals and so on can identify you as a likely good target and then use that information to steal from you. It costs an awful lot of money. Once you've already had something stolen, it can also be like a significant stress and hassle. It's very inexpensive to be able to prevent this stuff and just make yourself not available to these people. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. A couple bucks a month on the annual subscription. It ends up being like 60, 80, 100 bucks a year, depending on what program you get. 15% off using KYLE at checkout. There is that link in today's show description. Check them out if you haven't done so already. It's actually one of the easier things to do. I did have something sneak through yesterday. I don't think it's a Patriot Protect fault, but I had a complete weirdo. I think I sent you the voicemail screenshot. Some lady called me and then called my former attorney, and my attorney called her back and left her a message. And then he and I talked last night, and he was like, "What's up with this lady?" I was like, "I don't know. I think she might have been a wacko." She called me randomly and demanded to be a guest on the podcast, as though I require people to tell me when they should be the guest. If you're George Hill, you can ask me to be on the show and give your PSA. But we have like a lot of, like George and I have shared breakfast together. We've shared a hotel room. We've bunked out like college kids together. If you're just a rando lady who claims to live in California but actually lives in Florida, do not randomly call my phone number up and then call my former attorney and say that there are indictments when there are not. It was one of the weirder phone calls I've ever got. I was looking at it like pop up on the voice to, whatever, it's like voice to text, visual voicemail. And I'm reading it. I'm like, what in the shit? Like, what? Oh! If you guys have never had the weird thing happen like that, I have a much higher profile than most people do. So at least I got that going for me. But
you scrutinize most requests to come on your podcast. You have congressional representatives that have asked to come on your program before, and you were like, not worth it. To which I would completely just Howard Stern them. If I had the opportunity, it would be fun.
Who did I turn down in the congressional? I feel like that's true.
Was it Kat Kamek?
I had Kat reach out a bunch of times. I don't think I would like that. I don't think I want to talk to her.
No, well, you could ask her why she didn't return my text.
You could ask her that. Just text her again.
She doesn't want to come on the American Radicals podcast.
Yeah, she does not. All right. So let's go some things that are speaking of didn't return my text or didn't follow through on something. How about this one? This is another judge story. So judges have the power in America. We found out. This is also backwards, by the way. The judiciary is supposed to be like the referee in the weakest branch. Oops. A federal judge is pressing the DOJ to explain the Epstein files redactions, withheld materials related to Donald Trump, because they cannot shake this pit bull type story that has been the bane of the existence of the Trump administration. And as long, I almost think they went to war in Israel to just try to change the news cycle. I think they might have.
Like Clinton bombing a pharmaceutical factory to get off the Monica Lewinsky ex.
Yeah, here we go. Federal judge Thursday pressed lawyers from the Justice Department to explain why some materials from the Epstein files were withheld from the public. This guy's name, I saw him all the time in the January 6th thing. The one thing that January 6th did is it exposed a ton of federal judges' names in the D.C. area and the Eastern District of Virginia. So U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan, I feel like there's all kinds of stories about Emmett Sullivan I've read over the years, scheduled the hearing in a lawsuit filed by an independent journalist who sued over what she alleged were improper redactions and withheld materials from the files on Jeffrey Epstein, the late convicted sex offender. In June, Sullivan concluded that the redactions and withheld materials violated the Epstein Files Transparency Act. He ordered the DOJ to turn over the materials or explain why the materials needed to be withheld. The Attorney General conceded that he is, in fact, in violation of the act, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the information.
Yeah. Or else what? What are they going to do? Arrest themselves?
This is the problem. This continues to be the problem. I have an ongoing lawsuit with the FBI right now trying to get information that anytime Kash Patel mentioned my name in emails, whether he mentioned the attorneys' names that are suing me, because there's a pretty obvious thing. We talked about weaponization a moment ago. When somebody in a position of power, especially someone as lazy and as dumb as that guy, is got an email address, which is probably what, like DPK number 9 at FBI.gov or whatever the heck it is. he's going to use it because he thinks it's cool to send emails from the gov address. Man, I hated sending emails from my government address.
Yeah.
I hated it. In fact, anybody that has any sense doesn't want to send stuff from, you know who had sense? Hillary Clinton had sense.
At least install it in your
Just
bathroom,
put it in your bathroom.
At home. Bill Clinton, I think, sent one email his entire life.
That is actually an enviable thing. There's a lot of things I wouldn't envy about him. One email
from a guy who has
life.
no discipline, and that context, man, the guy is just stoic.
We all have our strengths. That is a big brag. I think my father-in-law or my wife's stepdad, I guess, he said he's never stepped into a Walmart, that is kind of a flex. I'm not sure what the flex is.
New York City, he might not have had the opportunity, so it might not be as strong of a flex, but still.
He's lived in Connecticut off and on for 20 years now, though. And I think they have Walmarts in Connecticut. Somebody fact check me on that. I feel like I've been to a Walmart in Connecticut.
I've never eaten Taco Bell. Does that count?
I don't know what that is. That's smart. But also,
I don't want to get E. coli.
Think about all the diarrhea you've missed out on there, brother.
That's true.
Sometimes, you can strategically use Taco Bell. Some people go and they're like, oh no, I have constipation, or I have, constipation. And I got to go get prune juice. I got to run out to the store. You're like, yeah, or you could go to Taco Bell and spend 99 cents on a taco. I don't know what tacos cost anymore. What do they cost at Taco Bell?
If you go to Mexico,
$11.
they're cheaper than they are here now. It's like $20.
I don't know what, dude, speaking of weird taco, I have a weird Taco Bell story for you. We had a Taco Bell in Burke, Virginia, Fairfax County. And the single most legitimate and actually scariest terrorist moment that I ever dealt with in the entire FBI time. We had one guy that seemed like he was pretty legit. He was like driving around. He was schizophrenic and like Looney Tunes. And he would drive past the Pulse nightclub. And I think I've told you this. And you would get like a raging terrorist boner going by thinking about Omar Mateen's handiwork. But this guy was actually probably like one of the most actionable. It was in the National Capital Region. He'd been under surveillance for a decade and a half or something like that, off and on. So they were constantly watching him. Him and his brothers were weirdos. And he had this big like Islamic beard and he had like this long flowing hair. He's like a fat guy who looked like a balding pedophile, probably was, if I had to guess. And he was going to get married to some like arranged Islamic marriage. And then he started sending messages saying, I don't know if I'm going to have time to get married before I go operational and do the thing I'm going to do. And then he started hanging out at the YMCA and doing like floats for like 3 hours in the water, kind of sensory depot style. And he shaved the head. So he was like bald and he shaved off the beard. When Muslim guys that are going to go terrorists like start shaving all the things, that's
they're not trying to look like George Hill. They're getting ready to.
It was really intense. And so anyway, so they executed a search warrant at this dude's house. They found like 100 hard drives. What does that tell you?
He likes himself the CSAM.
So yeah, that's two possibilities. Either you're selling hard drives out of your house, which I think they had like some sort of half-assed like resale business, or you're gathering child sexual material. So anyway, long and short of it is, this dude, they do the search warrant, then they let him go. As you do. Yeah. They let him go and they let the scene lapse, and they didn't tell the surveillance bubble that was holding on to him, because we were supposed to keep track of him. They just let him go. And then they're like, hey, yeah, we like released the scene like 12 minutes ago. And the first second that guy got a chance, he jumped in his car. As soon as the feds, federal agents were no longer holding on to him and interrogating him, he jumped in his car and he left like right away, and he escaped our surveillance bubble because we didn't know he was out. We had a tracker on the car.
Yeah.
And I did like 90 miles an hour in 30-mile-an-hour zones chasing him, and he made it to a Taco Bell. And that was his prearranged. That's a diabolical move. He made it to this Taco Bell and then like rolled in there and then paid somebody theoretically at random like $50 or $100 to drive him to like a train station and a Target. If you believe that. I can't fathom like a dude at Taco Bell who's like walking up to you. He's some fat, shaved Muslim guy. He's like all like looking like a hairless cat.
And he's sweaty dude's like, hey, want to make $50?
He's like, I got $50 if you'll take me to that Target over there in Lorton or something like that. Anyway, he got away from us that way though. That was a bold move. So if you're ever trying to shake the feds,
just go
to the Taco Bell drive-thru, especially if there's coverage, if there's trees over the top of the drive-thru, because we didn't know if he went into the store, if like his vehicle, like it wasn't obvious where it was. Anyway, he got away. We caught him again, and then we let him go, and then he never did anything because the FBI is never actually getting terrorists. They're never actually doing it.
No, and they're using the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting in the Orlando resident agency to circumvent DEI rules because they have a shrine to the rainbow flag that is in that office.
Do they really?
Yeah, that's where they had me come in and do the pretend we're going to bring you back to the FBI stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
what's crazy is the Pulse nightclub is actually not a nightclub anymore. It is a shrine to the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Yes, and they have an entire hallway that's dedicated to that in their office to the Pulse nightclub, and it's just a way so they can hang as many rainbow and pride flags as possible.
Yeah, Orlando's super gay. Let's do some more gay stuff. You want to do more gay stuff? This one's gay.
All right.
Give me a headline here.
Flock CEO apologizes for cases where surveillance technology was abused as company rolls out changes.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry we were sorry we had dozens and dozens of national cases of law enforcement officers abusing the technologies that we made available that are really powerful. I had a buddy of mine who generally kind of like aligns with like Donald Trump is great and everything this administration does is great. He's kind of like a casual news watcher, but on occasion, he gets deeper into something. And the other day, like out of the blue, he's like, yo, bro, we got to get rid of this flock crap. They're going to do taser drones over your house. He was all freaking out about it. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, you should move to America. Like being in New York is not a good place for the surveillance state. So the CEO of surveillance technology company Flock Safety has formally apologized Thursday for instances where its data was misused by law enforcement officers and discussed the changes the company is rolling out to its system. This is the actual accidental theme of today's show. All of the things we are doing are band-aids on symptoms, and we should be going up and looking at root causes.
Correct.
Right?
You're just trying to tie a tourniquet on this thing, and it's not going to. You can tie a tourniquet on it for temporary reasons, but it's not going to address the overall problem.
Following the Washington Post report that police officers were accused in 46 different cases, and that means that there are what? How many real cases are there? 46 have been identified.
Oh, it's got to be tenfold.
Hundreds.
Yeah. I mean, look, before Flock was even a thing, as a cop, people who I knew in law enforcement would abuse just like looking up license plates and running it through NCIC.
For sure.
This is just endemic within law enforcement. It's like, oh, I saw this hot chick and I'm going to run her tags and I'll start doing my off the books investigation so that I can maybe, cross paths with her yet again.
I could accidentally be at the same gym that she's at. Oh, look, what fate has brought us together, milady. Or whatever creepy idea they had. I remember getting called, or maybe it was an email from the FBI's radio room in Washington, D.C. for looking up license plates that were not tied to a case. And they were license plates of cars that had followed me into my neighborhood. Like really illogically. And it turned out it was probably nothing. It was just like somebody was like, I don't know, maybe doing a delivery or something. But I remember being very concerned because we worked on a bunch of stuff, and a bunch of the cases we worked on were like real shady stuff, and some were public corruption, and some were, like cops and stuff doing things that they shouldn't have been done, or prison guards, whatever. And so anyway, I had like a couple of cars that I ran that followed me in and looked really shady. I also had a neighbor who was actively dealing drugs when I was living in one of my houses. Like he was dealing drugs from next door, which is a bold move, by the way. Not a lot of people can say, I'm so ballsy, my neighbor's an FBI agent and I'm still dealing drugs in his parking spot. But he did.
I had a guy fleeing police drive into my driveway.
Wrong driveway, right?
Yep. He was fleeing because he must have been suspended or something like that. And police drove him right in, and he tried to pretend he was going home. He pulled into my driveway. I wasn't home, but my wife came out and she's like, you don't live here. And my husband's law enforcement.
Game on.
Just would have been the most epic story to tell in lockup later.
I accidentally got nabbed because I grabbed the wrong driveway and it was an FBI agent's driveway. Yeah, no, I literally remember. And by the way, I had that drug dealing neighbor arrested. And I even did the most bro move you could ever do. I don't know if there's ever been a more bro FBI agent move than this. I told my neighbor getting out of the car, who was holding a pipe and a lighter, which is not smart. And I'm wearing a, like a dress shirt with my badge exposed, which I never did, but I like took off my blazer and my gun. So you could see that I had a gun and a badge on my belt and magazines and handcuffs in the back, all the things. And he gets out of the car and he was, he pretended that he worked for a moving company, but his real money was all like selling weed in DC. And he didn't sell weed. I remember this too. Steve, in DC, you can give people weed. You can't sell it, at least at that time. So what he would do is he would sell like an action figure that was $1, and he would sell it for $50 and then give you $50 worth of weed plus the action figure as a gift. You bought a $50 action figure. You got $50 worth of weed. So anyway, he gets out of the vehicle and he stands there and he's looking at me and he's baked out of his gourd and his eyes are like super watery. And he looks over and I go, hey man, I can't remember his name, Mike or something like that. And I'm like, Mike, I live next door to you, right? And he's like, yeah, man. I was like, do you know what I do for a living? And he was like, I kind of think I do. I was like, okay. And I was like, do you want me to tell you what I do? And he was like, yeah, no, that'd be good. And I was like, I'm an FBI agent. I'm a federal agent. I don't work drugs, but I will work you if you keep selling drugs in my parking spot, homie. Can you not do that? I was like, look, I don't care what you do with your time. I'm not interested in marijuana. I don't particularly like it, but just don't make me see it, smell it, hear it. Don't make me a witness to your transactions, which are very obvious hand to hand in front of my home in my main window. Like, just don't make it my business or I will make it my business too. That's all I'm asking. Take it somewhere else.
Completely.
And he was like, yeah, dude, totally. Appreciate that. I was like, I just want to have like a neighbor conversation so we don't have to like have an official conversation of some kind. I don't want to do that. And he was like, yeah, totally. And it was like, cool. And then like a week later, he's like selling drugs in the freaking, in the spot again. I was like, this stupid son of a bitch.
Flashbangs.
So I called up Fairfax County PD. And by the end of like 2 months, they did trash covers and I would tell them when he wasn't there. And they would send the detectives by and like pull stuff out of the trash. And I'd tell them which trash can it was. And I was giving them license plates of weird stuff that was pulling in. And then they actually called me and they're like, hey, we're about to come arrest your neighbor. Can we come in through your yard? I'm like, absolutely. Knock yourself out. And they arrested him and they put him in the backseat of the car. And while he's in the backseat of the car with like his buddy who was like selling with him, they're sitting in there on the camera, right? The recording in the cage.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, bro, like, what happened? And he was like, oh, no, I think my neighbor's like some kind of a cop or some shit, And I got to hear it. They played me the recording of my idiot neighbor who I'd told explicitly what was going on. And he was like real confused about it. And then they arrested him again. And when I showed up in court, because they asked me to come to court to testify, so I did. I testified in more drug cases for the locals than I did for the FBI.
We shouldn't just brush over the fact that Kyle Seraphin needed a drug problem handled, so he called the real police.
I did call the real police. There was no other way around it. Like, that was the only way that this problem was going to get solved. And I was like, this is why I told my next neighbor when I moved in, he's like, yo, dude, sometimes I'm worried about you because you're a Fed. And I was like, I have far less authorities than the Fairfax County PD. I can't do anything to you. You're driving around. You got drugs. It doesn't matter. I have no PC. I have no ability to do like a PC stop on you in your car. It's just, we didn't have any authorities. So it was very funny to me. Anyway, they when I showed up in court, that was one of the most money moments when he finally realized, like, he'd probably seen my name in the filings or something. And his attorneys like are there and like I'm sitting there and he looks over at me and he just looks crestfallen. Like I'd betrayed his trust as a neighbor. Like, you stupid dipshit. What are you doing? I was the nicest FBI dude, neighbor, Fed you could ever have. I just told you not to sell shit in my driveway. And you did it anyway because you're dumb. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, yes, that is the real police, but the real police also are totally stalking people and using it for their own purposes. Yes, and I know for a fact they were. That was a long-winded anecdotal aside here. This guy, and I love that, by the way, it's the cops doing the wrong thing. So the CEO of the company that makes the technology has to apologize. Is that lost on you at all?
No, it isn't. Well, I think that there is a gross relationship between many of the agencies and this company. I talked about it a week ago. 404 Media got a leak. 404 Media has some moles inside of Flock.
What is 404 Media?
They're like a left of center, privacy-driven website, and they expose a lot of this stuff. They got a 14-page document that came from Flock that is being pushed out to cops to go and hard sell flock to their city councils and their city managers and ways to do the Zootopia. Like, well, if they ask you about privacy, then you just ask yourself a different question. It's completely coached because they're trying to use and essentially deputize deputies to sell flock cameras.
Are they getting any kickbacks? Is there financial, or they're just saying it's good for your stats or something?
It's good for your stats. I mean, the question ultimately is a false premise where they say, well, the question isn't whether or not we're going to invade your privacy. It's whether or not we're going to have no crime at all, or you're going to have total crime. Like you're completely ineffective and you're Barney Fife and unable to carry out any investigation, which is why you need this tool to do all of the law enforcement.
Are we worried about privacy, or are we worried about safety? We're worried about safety. Yeah, answer your own question. Okay, so here's what Garrett Langley, who's the CEO of Flock Safety, he said in an interview with CBS News. I apologize. It kills me that she went through that, hearing a woman being told that a woman who was interviewed who was being stalked by a cop using artificial intelligence surveillance cameras.
Though, too.
He what?
He was a police chief and he killed himself when he got caught.
Well,
Yeah, as this goes, I don't really feel bad.
That is a sad moment for everything involved, and he probably was a creeper. I mean, this tool did not make people bad. That's the other thing.
No.
This is the other big problem. This is why I want to go upstream of stuff. It's like the tool didn't make bad law enforcement bad law enforcement. It doesn't make good law enforcement good law enforcement. People are human, and so the whole point is that you build systems that can't be abused, because all systems will be abused. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned this through all of human nature, I would think. Hindsight tends to be very clear, Steve.
Well, and in law enforcement, I can just tell you, they fall in love with whatever the new tool is. Like, this is going to be the thing that ends all crime.
We're going to do geofence warrants on everybody, even though it's illegal.
And ergo, we're going to be in a situation where it's like a Philip K. Dick novel where we can do pre-crime now, because this is how great and awesome this tool is. And it's just never the case. It just gets overused. And there's just a little modicum of common sense with this, which I think one of these reforms that's going to come out that Flock is now going to say is, hey, if you want to run a search, you're going to have a case number, which to me always was the logical way that you could justify using Flock. Hey, I have an active criminal investigation. Hey, I have a case number that's drawn directly from my agency. There's probable cause, there's articulable suspicion. And ergo, if we have to do an audit, we can justify whether or not it was a righteous use of this tool. That was always the simplest way to do it. But Flock, for whatever reason, said, well, we'll make that optional. We'll leave it up to your best judgment. And when you do bust the cop for trying to stalk a woman he saw at Walmart, it's like slap on the wrist or prosecute. It's up to you.
I'd like to pick your brain about this theory, because I don't know how this is going to play out, but I do think that it's applicable, and it's new. It's a relatively new case. So we just had the Supreme Court decision coming in on Fourth Amendment searches and geofence warrants, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, it's a chicken and egg question. And I don't know how you can do a geofence warrant. Maybe you can rationalize it for me. But the concept of a geofence warrant is we have a time and we have a place. So it's a physical location over a period of time. And we want all the phones that were pinging in that area, or all the devices that were active, because within that group is the person who is the perpetrator. But the Supreme Court just said that that's a Fourth Amendment search, which you can only do on probable cause, and you can only search someone on probable cause to believe that they actually were the one who perpetrated the crime, or they had some involvement in it. And you're going to obviously get people that are not involved in that. So I don't know if you can do a geofence. Muse on that for a second, if that makes any sense to you.
Yes. Well, the Supreme Court had to weigh two issues. One was it a voluntary decision for people to click, I agree to use the app? Mm-hmm. And what the Supreme Court said was, no, you will need a warrant. That's not like a trash pull, like somebody just discarded their property and police can go by and just get it. You would need a warrant. It's not a voluntary turning over your information.
Right.
They sent the other part of it back to the lower courts, and that was, is this a general warrant? There's no question that it's a general warrant.
It is, right? It has to be.
Yes, and just take it out of the context of the.
So how would you use that tool? Can you? Okay, so you're gonna have to look into a crystal ball, I guess. But how do you use a tool with a general warrant if general warrants have been pretty roundly rejected at the SCOTUS level?
You can't. You can only argue the false premise of we need security, not liberty. If it saves just one life, and we have to have all these exceptions, we have to have the exigency sort of circumstances. But law enforcement's supposed to be difficult because we live in a country that's allegedly free. So out of the context of a geofence warrant, let's just say you live in the small town and a bike gets stolen. Well, I need a general warrant, Your Honor, so that I can go into every person in this town's garage to see if the bike is in there.
Right.
That's a general warrant, and that would be roundly rejected. There's no difference between that concept and what we saw with the geofence warrant. And we've actually seen now another decision by a lower court that said that the ask of the ping drop for location data needs to be thrown out too. And the FBI fought that to an appeals court, and the appeals court cited this Chaudhry decision in the geofence warrant saying that it's likely to be considered a general warrant. We're not going to allow this tool anymore, which sucks for law enforcement. Even the people that want to do the right thing for the right reason, and they want to work backwards rather than forwards. But I'm sorry, you happen to work in an industry that requires you to work a little bit harder. And it's so elegant, right? It's a perfect solution. You can just call up to Google and they give you the information. You don't even have to get your butt out of the desk and go knock on doors. But that's just not the way that the industry is supposed to work.
So do you see a similar issue with Flock? That it's going to basically, because it's already gathering everything. It's a depository. It's something that you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy on, but they're gathering it in a way that no reasonable person would expect to be able to be tracked.
And they're also incentivizing other avenues to collect because it's so lucrative. So what Flock is actually doing, and they pitched it, now they've backed off it. They wanted to install dash cameras on Lyft and Uber cars. And
right, so they could expand it out. They were talking about doing the same thing on trash trucks too, so they could see for code violations and have AI analysis of, your building trash that you're not supposed to have if you don't have a permit. So the endless permutations of, we're just going to see all the things that are in plain sight, but we're going to see all of it at once in a way that no human being could ever do. Our laws haven't been written to handle
data on people, individuals, and in this new program, I think it's called Nova, where they're going out and getting like publicly available information. Some of it was black dark web stolen information about an app to pay for parking meters, where people had their telephone number and their email address and their name and their banking information, because you don't put a quarter into the parking meter anymore. And they got
and you can't even do that. You have to scan their damn QR code. I had to go do this in Houston. I absolutely despise paying for parking, for starters, especially on a public street. It makes me want to fight people. It makes me want to fight a homeless person who's not even responsible for it. I get angry at anybody.
And that would be tied to a license plate, which would have been read by a Flock camera.
Right.
So now they have all of that personal information.
They've got my bank account. They've got my credit card. They've got my travel of where I was. They know the location of it. They know my vehicle, the make, model, etc. All tied to all those pieces.
Private company, ergo, it's not the government doing it. It's just the government buying it.
Right, and their entire existence is government funding. It's not like it's not like private companies are accessing this for whatever they're trying to do. This is and again, this is what fascism looks like. It's when you hear the words public-private partnership, you should be very concerned, because what you've just said is, we found a way around what your legal rights are, and we are now outsourcing it to a company to allow to do an end around on all kinds of constitutional protections.
Yes,
hands down.
And also finding ourselves a nice place to land after we leave government service, having abused our
that's the pipeline, obviously. Yeah. And so we've created another, this is the outgrowth of what we were calling earlier on during the Twitter files, the information industrial complex, where historically the old information, or the old industrial complex, was military, right? That was physical power projection. So we do things that destroy stuff, and you want to have us on your side because we are the destroyers of things. Well, the new weapon system, this is a James Bond, Tomorrow Never Dies. This is a James Bond. He said that the new weapons are words, and the new artillery are mass media and communications. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty decent little, that was one of the worst James Bonds, by the way. That was Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. Apparently now they're going to do a transgender retard as a Pierce
that
Bond.
Or a black guy, but we also lived through the Mission Impossible 2 plot.
I don't hate they were doing Idris, what's his name, Idris Elba.
Yeah, he's 56 though, so
yeah, he's too old to be James Bond. But that kind of a guy doesn't bother me. I think he's
good. He was good in The Wire. That's one of my favorite TV shows.
In the same way that you could have what did people used to say? They didn't know that Will Smith was black because he was just so universally loved. He wasn't like a black actor. He was just like a loved American actor. I don't hate that idea, but anyway. All right, so Flock, I continue to see this problem. Anyway, but this is also an outgrowth, by the way, of that 9/11, of the war on terror, and it's one of the legacies of the war on terror is that we've normalized crazy amounts of surveillance on this country. The Patriot Act did that in a way that we'll probably never outlive that one. I don't think.
And we don't again have an advocate on the side of freedom. because this really weird concept, particularly on the political right, we'll characterize it, the political right in this country, is wholly beholden to this message of we have to back the blue no matter what, which doesn't make any sense.
No, and I keep seeing videos.
Blindly accept the only institution of government. If you're allegedly somebody who believes in small government, why would you blindly accept the only arm of government that has the ability through the tip of a gun to put you into a cage or take away your life?
It's nuts. It is nuts. All right, folks, if you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. If you are so inclined, you can hit the notifications. We go live at 0930 Eastern Time, 8:30 Texas America Time, plus or minus a couple minutes, just based on the workload. Don't hold me to that. We're going to do a couple more stories here, and then we'll get out of here with Steve Friend, and I have a couple of funny videos that I couldn't help but download. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms right now. So hopefully you adjusted your audio accordingly, as necessary, as needed. Have you been following this story at all, Mr. Friend? The bait and switch of Donald Trump on the Air Force One, where he used the reporters as bait?
Yes, a little bit.
Have you followed this? This was from Joe Kent's feed a little bit ago, and this is the new iteration in it.
Oh, all right.
Let me walk you through it. So originally the story was Donald Trump goes to Turkey, and he's on the Qatari gift jet that we spent $1 billion retrofitting.
It doesn't have anti-missile.
But apparently it didn't have anti-missile defenses, so they put him on an alternative Air Force One, and they flew him on that. And in reality, they flew 2 Air Force Ones, neither of which had Donald Trump, and then he was put on a cargo plane full of rugged dog shit and flown to Hong Kong. No, that's actually from Top Gun. That's a different line altogether. No, he was on a cargo plane and went to a military base in the UK, and so he was like hidden in a catering truck and flown away. Robert Barnes just posted a meme, and it's the catering truck that goes down the aisle on your airline flight that's full of like the drinks and the snacks.
Yes.
Did you see this?
No.
And it has a speech bubble, and it says "fight, fight, fight" from inside the catering cart. It's a pretty good troll, actually. Here's the story from ABC News this morning. Joe Kent quoted something about this yesterday and wanted to point out once again, we're in a conflict with Iran, and it's his supposition, and I think that it is well established by the statements of both the president, the Speaker of the House, and also the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. They all said the same thing, that we got into the Iran conflict because of Israel. The United States intelligence officials assessed the threat to Trump was not credible ahead of the big Air Force One switcheroo. So say the sources, he snuck out of Air Force One to another plane via the catering cart while yelling "fight, fight, fight" underneath the ham sandwiches and the budget orange juice. U.S. intelligence officials raised doubts about whether or not there was really a real Iranian plot to target Air Force One before the extraordinary step that was taken to silently move the president from his aircraft and put him on another one to protect him from this suspected Iranian plot. That it wasn't real. And the information about the Iranian plot came from the Israelis. And we know there wasn't an actual Israeli Iranian plot because it didn't happen. This goes back to that catch-22 moment, the conspiracy. We know that it didn't happen because it didn't happen.
Yes, we have evidence, prima facie evidence that it didn't happen. This is Donald Trump working at the McDonald's or driving the garbage truck. This is campaign. This is what he's good at. We've talked about before, what do people do when they're in crisis? And it's the same reason that Daniel Bongino 292 and Kash Patel repeatedly go to social media or they go to Fox News because they see themselves as influencers, as media people. We're going to go to our strengths. Donald Trump unquestionably is in a crisis right now because you've got midterms coming up. His polling is really not that good, despite what he talks about. I don't know if the polls are good or they're fake anymore, but he's got problems. Mm-hmm. So what is he going to go back to? Well, he's really good as a campaigner. And what was the most successful part of his campaign was trolling Kamala Harris with working out the drive-through window of a McDonald's. That's kind of what is here, right? I'm going to be like this James Bond-esque character who avoids a potential assassination attempt from Iran, who I thought was destroyed at this point. Aren't we like 11-time back-to-back?
Yeah, apparently, though, they're still, not only are we the back-to-back Iran war champions, they also apparently have dudes rolling around with shoulder-fired missiles that can take down the president's plane, allegedly. That was the claim. That was the Israeli claim. I'm putting it on the screen right here, but it says U.S. intelligence agencies raised doubts about the intel, sources said, adding that the United States ultimately deemed it did not indicate a serious or immediate threat. The Secret Service said they couldn't take a chance of even the possibility of a threat.
Understandable.
You'd think that the president has a big say on what that is, so maybe he weighed in on it more. and it resulted in him being moved to a military aircraft aboard a catering truck. And then, what do you think? Was this something that was done by diligent investigative reporters, or was this actively leaked so that they could have the James Bond story?
I lend my thinking to the latter category. The only question I have is why wasn't it leaked to Axios? But that tends to be, where they go with these stories. But this seems to me like a lot of theatrics. It was probably pushed out by the Trump administration themselves.
And now it's kind of blowing back on it. And so Donald Trump was like, hey, I just do what the Secret Service tells me. Like, I just go wherever they tell me. But again, interesting. Yeah. The interesting thing, and I think this is the Joe Kent point, which I don't think is wrong, is that there's an outsized amount of credibility placed on this frenemy called Israel, which is not a country that is operating in 100% the United States' best interest. They operate in their interests at best, and they overlap with our interests frequently, but not always. So if they can keep Donald Trump concerned, then they can keep him on sort of that high tension wire of, at any moment, the bad guys that we're bombing together are trying to kill you.
Yes. Nations could and should always operate in their own best interest, which is why the argument that Donald Trump and Mike Johnson and Marco Rubio made that we had intelligence that they would respond if they were struck, and that bore itself out. Like, well, obviously, if you punch me in the face, I would expect that you would expect that I would punch you back. That's right. That's
it's
what
self-fulfilling.
nations do in their own best interest.
That's right. Now, self-fulfilling prophecy continues to be an ongoing frustration. This is some of the Iranians who have been defeated over and over again and don't actually exist, but there they are, and apparently are still in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which they weren't previously, but now they are, and we're going to keep it, but we don't have it. And the United States Navy has got people considering jumping over ship because they've been deployed too long.
I don't buy that one very much either, to be honest.
Do you not?
I mean, I don't think it's pleasant.
I mean, it could have been like people have mental health issues. Who knows what
Sure. And that's a floating city. But the idea that we can't bring toothpaste and deodorant, a supply drop to an aircraft carrier, we have significant problems if that is an actual reality.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably healthy skepticism. This is another thing that just popped up here. This is actually from last year. This is a Forbes article. Trump's campaign apparatus paid his company $18 million for flights after getting $13 million from the Secret Service. I didn't grab an article on it, but the Democrats are now doing an investigation into the Trump administration's spending on luxury jets, of which there are several, not just Kash Patel trying to get new ones, but DHS brought in several. These people basically have been treating the federal government like their own piggy bank. So again, we've moved from, are we the group that is putting people into power that want small government, want to do responsible governance, or are they people who are saying, now it's our turn to raid the piggy bank, so screw you? And Donald Trump keeps looking like the screw you side of that coin, unfortunately.
Mark Wayne Mullen flies back to Oklahoma every Thursday because he does a full 4-day work week and tries to get his wife hired on as a special government employee. So he didn't take long to try to belly up as quickly as he got in there. I mean, he's doing the good and faithful work of trying not to let the media get too much attention on them right now by basically not doing mass deportations.
Here's the other fun one too. And this one actually might be one of the wildest. I don't know what people will do with this in the future. And I cannot imagine, self-pardon or otherwise. The Trump media struggling to grow. Now it's selling $100,000 contracts, giving the glorified Bloomberg terminal for access to Donald Trump's posts earlier than other people. And they have more than 10 customers already set up, apparently, signing up for this.
Is there any information on how much advance notice do you have?
They said it can be milliseconds before they reach the broader audience. That was literally the argument.
Yeah, those will be purchased by giant investment firms, which have
Correct.
artificial intelligence, which can make the investment that they need to make. That's
Correct.
I guess they only need a few seconds.
Yep. I said it was most of the people are from high frequency security trading firms that are looking to secure an edge potentially. So you can buy early access to public information that the president, there's already lawsuits on this thing on whether or not it can actually go. The new contracts range from $60,000 to $100,000 a month. How do you look at that and not get disgusted if you're the person that said, this is our guy, we're going to root out corruption. This guy ran on draining the swamp for a decade. Is there more swampy things than saying we're going to sell you access to my words sooner?
Yesterday, John Solomon ran a gigantically long piece about how the FBI had 14 agents that were stopping the investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And that was all over what, $80,000 a month that he was picking up?
Mm-hmm.
Not what's this? Is this 5 orders of magnitude beyond that?
So I was just realizing, I was like, oh, it's $1 million. And I'm like, no, it's $1 million a month is what they're talking about. If they have 10 people that are picking up $100,000 contracts, it's a monthly fee to get milliseconds. And there's a value in that. If that's the cost, then it's worth more than that to the people who are doing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a cost of doing business.
Bro. The lawsuit that is seeking to stop this, and it was put out by The Intercept and the nonprofit group called Freedom of the Press Foundation. They said that they allege basically that these Truth Social API subscriptions are extraordinary, corrupt, and unconstitutional. I don't know what a judge will say, but again, we live in a place where we're actually ruled by judges. In this case, I think they're probably right. I don't know how you could say otherwise. It's insane.
It just lends credence to the theory that 2024 made sense as far as being too big to rig, because electing Donald Trump, from the narrative perspective, I mean, the guy was cash money. That's why he was super successful with the garbage truck and the McDonald's drive-through. There was no denying that he was going to beat Kamalanism. And that was the bleed-off valve. But I think you can make an articulable case that there was discussions had by people who we don't know their names that said, yeah, we couldn't kill you. The people want you. You can make as much money as you want, pilfer the treasury, ensure that your financial success for your family going forward. We'll even, quote unquote, let you pardon the people that you want, even though that won't matter when we get back into power. But when you get in there, we're going to have the decisions made that we want, and you're just going to go out there and sell it, like Flock Camera is selling themselves to police officers, because the police officers are a better spokesperson for Flock Camera than the Flock salesman is at this point. Donald Trump could sell that to the people who voted for him.
Are you being optimistic about that? That may be your problem.
You could probably fit a whole bunch of spaghetti in that brand new pre-owned.
Have I ever sent you have I sent you that
You gotta
meme?
send me that.
Yeah, the salesman. You can fit so much spaghetti in this son of a bitch. Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. All right. Low oil prices are the #1 goal in the Iranian war. That's what JD Vance said.
I thought it was mid-range missiles.
Well, come on, dude. We had to have new stories. Oil prices rose Friday after Washington threatened an indefinite naval blockade. It signaled that it would soon intensify economic pressure on Tehran with measures that have never before been seen. If only we had never heard words like never been seen, unlike anything else, all this thing. Their goal in the Iran war is to lower oil prices to the price similar to what it was before it started. Dude, it's got to be hard to do this at this point, you'd think.
That's probably why Carolyn Levitt exited.
I think so too. What did you make of? I don't know if you saw the analysis of it, but I did a whole bit on the jumping ship, and the number of people that have jumped ship from the Trump administration are as follows right now, and some that I had forgotten about. So we've got Tulsi Gabbard has left on her own volition. Daniel Bongino 292 has left on his own accord. You have Carolyn Levitt leaving on her own accord. You had Kristi Noem squeezed out. Pam Bondi squeezed out. You had Waltz, National Security Advisor, squeezed out. Who am I forgetting?
The labor secretary.
Labor secretary with the hyphenated name.
Detail.
Yeah. What was she doing?
She was having sex with somebody on her security detail, and
that's not. Yeah, there have been some allegations about people having sex on security details. We're not going to get too deep into the weeds on this, but imagine if you were someone who was not married and had a series of like studly dudes around you that were protecting you. We've all seen the movie Bodyguard, right?
Yeah, that was
Kevin Costner. Yeah, Whitney Houston.
Prophecy.
The bodyguard phenomenon is it's real. Just turns out if the person who's protecting you is not a boy who is your friend, and it turns out it is actually someone who is paid to be there, that's a thing. Numerous allegations coming in from folks about that sort of thing. Just things to be aware of, like sleeping with the security detail. We've already lost one cabinet secretary over this. We don't need any more of that in America.
No, it wouldn't be a good look for the conservative traditional values, family values, which is why I don't believe the Carolyn Levitt exit. Where
I don't either. If honestly, she wanted to, she would have never come back. She would have said, "Hey, I'm having a baby. I'm going to be out of here. I'm going to dedicate my life to this." She wouldn't go back to work and then been like, "Oh, by the way, apparently."
She could say, this is why I would believe her. She could say, "I came back And in the time that I've come back, I've come to realize that that was a tremendous mistake, that it's really important for me to be home.
Yes.
And then I would realize, oh, okay, she's being honest. But that would cut off her ability to have the paid full-time contributorship at Fox News, which she'll have before the midterm election.
If we see Carolyn Levitt go to work for any television station or in any sort of broadcast capacity, in the next 6 months to a year while the baby is under a year old, you guys already know that it was fake and gay and lying. That's that. Anyway, I just love that we're going to have measures like you've never seen before, and we're going to focus in on low oil prices. It's almost like the domestic agenda that the Seraphin show has been harping on, which is the only message that's going to matter to people when it comes on to whether or not they're able to have a midterm message that resonates with anybody. And I don't think it's going to. And if I keep, by the way, when I bring it up to people, like, hey, I think it's too late. You're so deep in the weeds on this thing. You're so entangled. George Hill was telling me yesterday, he was listening to the Redacted podcast, and they had an economist on there who basically ended with, well, and we may have something like the Troubles from Ireland in the United States by December of this year. And then he jumped off the line, and George was like, what? What is this guy dropping that kind of bomb in this last line? There's some pretty wild things that are possible at this point, and probably pretty scary, I would say.
Well, when Mexico has lower inflation rates than the United States for the first time in half a century, we got problems.
Bro. All right. Should we do some funny things?
Yes, it's Friday. Let's get optimistic.
Okay. Steve, I'm going to put you on the screen for a second. Why don't you tell people what's coming up with the American Radical podcast, and then I'm going to find a couple fun things for fun.
Well, American Radicals podcast, noontime Eastern time today, YouTube, Rumble at AmRadPod, and also head on over to Spotify under the same umbrella at AmRadPod. It's a Friday smorgasbord sort of show. I'm kind of like emptying out everything I've held in reserve because next week I'm doing a special collaboration with Keith Malinak. So it'll be at 0700 Eastern time, and we'll filter into the Kyle Seraphin show. But today, as a smorgasbord, I'm going to do some flock camera stuff. Dug into that quite a bit. And then have the story about the professor over in England who got exposed as a fraud. He claimed that he was nonverbal and autistic, and then suddenly he was writing a PhD.
That's very funny. I like it. I just saw one of the greatest lines that I've seen in our chat in quite a while. It was a statement saying, we should have better psyops, bring back the murder hornets. That's kind of a throwback. I haven't heard about murder hornets in a while.
No,
I did like them.
I do a pretty diligent job of trying to like keep up with stories and like note them throughout the year, the bombshell, the breaking exclusive stories.
Right.
And every once in a while, I'll just reflect back and look through and be like, oh my gosh, the news cycle is 15 seconds long.
It's very, very fast. All right. So, Steve, one of the things that you and I did a long time ago was the guy who does the I hope that helps bit. And he did a combination of all of the alpha male Instagram influencers into one day.
He's my favorite.
And he did a great job lampooning it. I found a guy who's making fun of a dude doing weird new agey bullshit marital advice, I guess. And I felt like he's our spirit animal. So I want to share that with you right now. This is a man with the right attitude about people who say nonsense on podcasts about how great their marriage is. You prepared?
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's go. It's about 2 minutes here.
I'm up at 4 a.m.
Every morning I wake up my alarm clock.
From 4 to 4:20, I do a book on double speed, so I'm listening.
I listen to 2 books at triple speed and reverse in Braille in a language that I can only interpret.
At 4:20, I'm on the treadmill with my wife.
I give my wife a piggyback ride while I'm sleepwalking on the Stairmaster.
And we're doing an active meditation together for 40 minutes.
My wife and I committed to an active meditation together before each of our parents conceived us.
It includes a reverie where we're basically aligning the pharmacy of the body to over-dopamine the mind by gratitude, serotonin the brain.
It's one of those famous word salads smothered in yappa dressing.
And then we shift into Mind Palace.
A shift into Mind Palace? I should have known. So predictable.
Which is 20 minutes of co-creating our best bodies.
Everybody knows that your best bodies can only be co-created in a Mind Palace within a time period that can't be conceptualized. Which makes me skeptical of the validity of these bodies that you've claimed to co-create are in fact the best.
5 o'clock, we then hit the weights. That happens between 5 and 7.
Between 5 and 7, the weights are hitting me because I'm reversing the gravitational pull of the Earth.
And then between 7 and 8, me, that's my time with my wife.
Where we have violent, rabid, sweaty sex while screaming positive affirmations in each other's ears to really get the blood pumping.
Between 8 and 9 is an hour with our kids.
All 833 of them that were conceived and birthed in one pregnancy.
Where we're doing breakfast and life lessons.
Importance of manipulating people's insecurities in order to profit off them and scam them through multi-level marketing schemes.
Day technically hasn't started yet.
I've configured and recalibrated in my mind palace to over-dopamine the day out of existence.
Everything that was important to me is done.
And now I can spend the rest of the day extracting the earth of all of its resources for my own personal gain because greed is good and I do it commando.
Monday through Friday, I'm good with 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Monday through Friday, sleep having 4 or 5 hours of me is mandatory.
Saturday, I sleep in generally till like 5:30 or 6. And Sunday, I'll sleep until 9 or 10.
And I've shifted and reconceptualized the fallacy of time so I can experience the weekend before the rest of the peasants. I teach it in my masterclass, the cost of which is an amount that you can't comprehend. Only until the pharmacy in your body is committed to the alignment of the reverie to over-dopamine the serotonin after you DM me the word so we can jump on that discovery call where you give me $800 gazillion with gratitude.
Both very impressive husbands. I compare myself. I'm a distant third. I'm more of a fan of the Best in Show, where I look at my wife and I say, you know, we could talk or not talk for hours.
Wait, you do the female part. Wasn't that Stifler's mom doing that bit?
Yeah, that was her. That was the Best in Show.
Yeah. Yeah, and she looked at her husband.
It was like the Anna Nicole Smith.
It was an Anna Nicole Smith bit. I don't want to talk or not talk for hours. So here's my routine with my wife. I've realized this the other day. My kids have caught on to it. Okay, my wife says things that are funny, but I receive it with a deadpan, and then I respond and I make her crack up at my joke and her joke at the same time, and then I look at her. And then I tell the kids, your mom's kind of weird. And so I deadpan it to them, and they look at mom laughing, and then they're like, Mom, why are you laughing? And then they laugh. And then I do a villain laugh from a cartoon. And everybody has to laugh. But my laugh is the only one that's fake.
It's perfect the way that the genders interact with each other. I think that women...
Do you ever villain laugh at your boys?
No, I just laugh hysterically at them and they get toughened up. I mean, that's my goal, is to like build up as much scar tissue as I can. The day that I'm not laughing at you is the day I don't like you. That's what I say. But yeah, women, I think it's been studied, want humor in a man. And men just want a woman that laughs at our jokes. So there you go.
We do want that. I also do weird things that I never used to do because it never used to matter to me. But now that I'm like in my mid 40s, I regularly flex muscles at my daughters and my wife so they understand, like, mostly so my daughters can see modeled the behavior that flexed muscle men are more advantageous than not. And they can see the positive results between me and my wife. I'll be like, what do you think? You know, and I'll flex a bicep and then she'll go, oh, and I'll go, no, touch it. Like, you know, like I give her like this real thing. And then my daughters roll their eyes because they're 9, but they're 15. And I just want them to know, it's like we're bringing back the things that I want, which is traditional masculinity, toxic or otherwise, protective masculinity. I get my son who's 5. I'm like, what's our job? Protect the girls. That's our job. You know, like I tell him that like in a Batman voice. He's 5.
Right.
I'm like,
I mean, any given opportunity that I have to do a WWE finishing move on my 8-year-old.
Yes, you have to. You have to. Pool or not pool, it's irrelevant. You have to do it. Buddy, I got my 2-year-old daughter, who's almost 3, sitting down next to me in front of my gun safe the other day. And she said, Dad, which one of these is mine? And I said, which one do you want? And she said, I want the big one. I was like, oh, you want a BCM, Bravo Company manufacturing? It's a nice rifle. Yeah, you could have that one. She was like, what about the little one? I was like, that one's super expensive. That's a SIG MPX. Yeah, you could have that one too. All these could be yours one day. They all could be or not, depending, you know, whatever. And she was like, do you know why you have the guns, Dad? And I was like, why do I have the guns, Dad? And she's like, so you could shoot the bad guys and they can't get me. I was like, that is a fact. 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old girl who understands how the world works. That's all I'm saying. Let's get to that. Let's do less of the surrogate with a Muslim last name, having babies with ladies in other states that have to run for baby refugee status in Texas where they're washing your feet because Muslims. Maybe we could do like more like little girls know their dad's job is to kill the bad guys if they come after them.
Yeah. The Terminator 2, the most masculine they should be is Sarah Connor, but even at the end, like, she didn't handle the minigun.
That's right. That's not her job.
No.
We might have just saved America, Steve. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to your wife for being married to you as we saved America. I hope you have a good weekend,
I'm
buddy.
sure she'll send you a thank you card.
Tell your wife to send thank you cards to my P.O. box. Can I put that up too? And then we'll say adieu. Folks, if you want to send thank you notes for Steve Friend and I Saving America, you can write to the show at 9073 West State Highway 29, Suite 110, Box 509, Liberty Hill, Texas, 78642. If you're listening and you didn't get it, you can always remind and go back and get that. Steve Friend, I appreciate you. Have a fantastic weekend, my friend.
Same to you, brother. Have a good one.
Adios, bud. All right. So we've done all the things that we could do today. I do have one more palate cleanse for you. A real cleanse to go off into the thing. Some of you are buying weapons that are rifles. Some of you are buying pistols. Some of you are buying samurai swords. I have a friend who sent me a picture of his new samurai sword, which is a very strange thing to do, especially to me. I was like, bro, what are you doing? What does that even cost? Some of you have failed, though. You've married poorly, or you are dating poorly, and you are asking for permission to buy said weapon systems to do the job that you're required to do. We've talked about this a couple times in this program. You can just do things. And one of the things you need to do as a man is be able to protect your family. I don't think a samurai sword is the right answer, but if it is the right answer because of some place you live or some sort of like, I don't know, sort of mentality that you have or a special skill set that I don't know about, if you need a samurai sword, you should not be asking permission from girlfriend, wife, mother, I don't know, if you still live at home, something like that. Here's a video of that sort of going sideways for this young man. And I don't know, it made me laugh because the samurai sword seems very pricey. You could get two very high quality rifles for this. Seems weird. It seems like it's a Bushido thing.
Here's why I should own a samurai sword.
We've been over this. It's not happening.
Reason one, I've been on really good behavior. It's been 212 days since the incident.
We don't talk about the incident.
We don't.
Reason two, it will scare off other women.
That's actually valid.
Here's a rendering of me chasing these women with a samurai sword.
You can't chase random women around a sword.
Okay, reason three, I will restore honor to the prefecture.
What?
Like, I will destroy those who threaten my honor. I'll live by the Bushido code. You're not going to get it. Anyways, here's some inspo. You'll see what I'm going after. I mean, I think it makes sense. This will kind of sway you, I feel like, you know.
Wait, go back.
So reason four is affordability. Look at this. This blade right here, guess how much it costs? $7,419.28.
And you said you can't afford a ring?
I mean, what is even the purpose of getting married if I cannot protect our family and restore honor to the prefecture?
He does have a point, and I vote that he just gets the sword anyway. A wedding ring doesn't have to cost $7,000. I think my wife's wedding ring was under a couple $100, and now we have thousands of dollars worth of guns. And she's better off. In fact, my wife's guns all cost more than all of her jewelry combined. Each of her guns costs more than all of her jewelry combined. If you guys are so lucky as to marry someone like this, my friend George Hill refers to her as a unicorn. Keep her happy. They are gems. Otherwise, put together a PowerPoint presentation and make the argument. By the way, letting them know that you'll chase off other women seems like a very, very solid point. I think you should have accentuated point number 2 a little bit more. The sort of honor thing was lost on her. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you have fun doing whatever it is you do. We'll be back here. I'm going to go to the lake and paddle around and wish that it was shady, but it'll still be really hot in Texas. It's 1,000 degrees. And if you are able to go out and buy a suppressor, you might find me at the Silencer Shop. I will be hanging out in Leander/Liberty Hill, Texas at the Silencer Shop. What's it called? Showroom, just off 183. And I'm going to go check them out on Saturday. They're going to do a grand opening. It's a free promo for those guys. They're cool people. They have a great showroom. They've got a bunch of cans that you can look at. And it sounds like they're going to do some cool stuff. So I will be there on Saturday. Maybe you'll be there on Saturday too. Otherwise, we'll see you here Monday, 0930 Eastern Time for the Kyle Seraphin Show. God bless all of you. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you after the weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.